In the year 2326, in the Sirak Mountains, the sun rises, stained with blood. Sprinting through the forest, our MC is hunted by soldiers yelling that if he escapes, they're all done for. Not understanding a thing, the boy flees, out of breath, wondering what the heck he did to deserve this. With a sweaty face and desperation pounding in his mind, the only question is why they want to take him out. Suddenly, the chase ends when someone screams for Kim Tae. Judah, stop right there, at the edge of a cliff. Just then, a magical explosion zips past, destroying the trees right in the kid's face. In a violent coughing fit, our guy's heart gives out, and he realizes his illness has struck again. Totally cornered at the precipice's edge, he hears the enemy call him by his military title. Slowly, the boy listens to the officer mock him, asking if he really thought he could get away without having another seizure. With a sadistic smile, the platoon leader, Jang In-dong, reminds him that our guy is just a piece of trash rejected by Mana, who already has one foot in the grave. From above, the entire platoon surrounds our boy, confirming that the hunt has finally come to an end. Panicked and with nowhere to run, Tae-ju begs for an explanation, wanting to know the reason for this cowardly act. After a mocking laugh, the villain spits in the kid's face, saying that a reject is trash and should have been gone a long time ago. With his sword in hand, the leader asks why our guy insisted on living until 29 just to annoy Her Excellency. Then, it clicks, and our boy realizes who the scumbag is talking about, mentioning the name Hondamitsu. Annoyed by the lack of respect, the officer tells him to watch his mouth, as the woman is still his stepmother and superior. Without wasting any more time, the soldier charges forward and delivers a lethal sword strike against our MC. With wide eyes, the boy sees the blade coming as the villain tells him to just drop dead already. Swiftly, the slash hits its mark, sending blood flying everywhere. With the brutal impact, our boy's body is thrown and plummets straight to the bottom of the abyss. Right after the blow, the coward declares that the family lands will now go to the stepmother's children. With his back to the cliff, he wishes him a good trip to the great beyond, leaving our guy behind. In the blink of an eye, the story rewinds 300 years, showing a modern city in the year 2026. Suddenly, the sun darkened in a bizarre eclipse, marking the day the world turned upside down. Falling from the heavens, a gigantic pillar of light brought the famous Mana to Earth, changing everything forever. Because of this bizarre event, 90% of humanity simply turned to dust in an instant. Soon the weather went crazy, cities crumbled, and the civilization we knew went down the drain. Back to the present, exactly 300 years after this apocalyptic chaos. From the ashes, the few survivors adapted to magic and built a new society. But the peace was short-lived as terrible monsters and poisonous plants emerged from the Mana, starting a new and bloody war. With the war raging, society created a hierarchy based on magical aptitude, where the rejects are at the bottom of the food chain. Being from an elite family, our guy reveals that his father is a super powerful, master-class general. But ironically, being the eldest son, he was born a reject who is slowly perishing, poisoned by his own mana. Just then, the consciousness of our boy, who was falling from the cliff, awakens in an astral space full of galaxies. Suddenly, the kid hears an old man complain that he tried to become immortal, but ended up in a place that mixes his home with a bizarre world. Staring the boy down, a white-haired old man bluntly asks if he has any idea where they are. Checking his own body, our MC sees the sword wound in his back and is shocked. Completely confused, he mutters to himself, unable to believe he's still alive after that fatal fall. Approaching slowly, the old man floats in this empty space, radiating an aura of respect. Demanding attention, the mysterious man tells the boy to get up and show his face properly. With a huge shock, the old man's eyes suddenly go wide as he focuses on the kid's features. In truth, the old man is none other than Tang Gun-ache, the feared poison demon and leader of the Tang clan, famous for being the absolute master of hidden weapons and the deadliest toxins in the martial world. During a brutal war where a demonic cult tried to destroy the entire world, this guy was the last line of defense. Full of power, the poison demon fought against the forces of evil with overwhelming energy. Capable of melting the enemy leader into toxic sludge, he dominated the entire Murim and, incredibly, possesses the same soul as our boy. Spending his final years meditating in the mountains, the master tried to transcend his mortal body. During the process, his soul left its flesh in search of true immortality. In that exact bizarre moment of fate, the ancient master's soul merged perfectly with that of our suffering MC. As soon as the two souls touched, all of the poison demon's memories flooded the kid's mind at once. In total shock, our little hero stares at the old man and asks if by any chance he is that legendary master. In an amused tone, the old man also accesses the boy's memories, seeing all the hardship he went through on modern Earth. Upon seeing the boy's life, the master realizes that they both share the same absurd potential, but had completely different fates. With great pity and anger, the old man notes that the kid was treated like trash his whole life just for being a mana reject. Finally understanding the situation, the poison master declares that this empty space is their shared mind. Faced with destiny, the old man decides to pass on absolutely all of his brutal experience and knowledge to the boy's body. In a very serious tone, he guarantees that if the kid trains hard with these new techniques, the tables will turn. His eyes shining with hope, our MC hears the promise that he too will become the supreme ruler of his own world. Suddenly, a blinding flash explodes in their shared mind, sealing the complete fusion of their two lives. Leaving one last piece of advice, the master's voice echoes, telling the boy to use this new power to live however he sees fit. After wishing him good luck, the old man's presence finally vanishes, leaving everything in our protagonist's hands. Back in the real world, the kid murmurs the master's name, opening his eyes with his face covered in blood in the middle of the dark forest. Getting up with difficulty, he realizes it wasn't a hallucination, as all the absurd martial knowledge is still fresh in his head. Feeling the pain in his body, the boy clenches his blood-soaked hands, trying to stay conscious. Dragging himself along the dirt ground, he figures he needs to act very quickly if he wants to get out of this cursed thicket alive. Close to his end, the kid decides to use the legendary technique that gets stronger the more poison the user consumes. By sheer luck, he notices the ground around him is covered with the most dangerous poisonous herbs in the region. Without a second thought, the madman grabs a handful of toxic weeds and shoves it straight into his mouth, chewing forcefully. Down the hatch, he endures the pain, focused only on the absurd will to keep breathing. In a quick trance, the plan is to convert all that fatal poison into pure martial energy within his broken body. Pushing the technique to its limit, a green aura explodes, finally breaking the invisible chains that held him as a rejected piece of trash. With his eyes glowing a sinister green, our MC vows he will survive and return the pain tenfold, starting with that scumbag captain. Meanwhile, not too far away, soldiers sweep the forest with flashlights, wanting to confirm if the target really kicked the bucket. Through the dark undergrowth, the troop advances cautiously, finding no sign of the crushed body. Suddenly, one of the goons stutters in fear as he shines his light into the darkness and finds our boy alive and kicking. With flashlights pointed, the soldiers back away, frightened, questioning how it's possible for him to still be alive. Noticing the different aura, the goon sees that the kid's vibe has suddenly changed. Faced with the bizarre scene, they wonder if it's a mana reaction, since our MC is building energy through poison. Nervous, the captain shouts, questioning how a reject could do that, and orders them to take him out before he becomes a nuisance. Suddenly, the poisonous aura explodes, completely shattering the invisible chains that bound the boy. Slowly opening his eyes, our MC glares at his enemies with a deadly look. In a swift move, he pulls out a knife coated in dark energy. Focused on revenge, the kid's expression glows with bloodlust. Suddenly, he dashes forward with absurd speed towards the squad, cutting through the wind. Surprised by the advance, the soldier's eyes widen with no time to react. Looking at his own hands, the kid marvels at the fact that he finally has internal energy coursing through his body. Clenching his fists, he feels the real weight of this new power. Ready for retaliation, the boy says he can now return the favor to all of them, in kind. Calmly, he greets Lieutenant Zhang, saying it's great to see him again. Full of scorn, the villain laughs and asks where all this confidence is coming from, since our guy doesn't even have an awakening tattoo. Ignoring the taunt, the kid just mutters thoughtfully about this call awakening. In the current system, those who awaken their mana get a mark on their face indicating their power rank, from user to master. Since Lieutenant Zhang Indong is just an initiate level, he would be the equivalent of a third-rate warrior in the martial arts of the past. Aware of the enemy's low level, our MC warns that his strength isn't all that, which makes the coward absolutely furious. Drawing his sword, the captain prepares for combat, shouting insults. Covered in a greenish energy, our boy warns that he's going to pay back everything they did to him. Mocking him, the officer asks if the kid hit his head on the way down the cliff. Furious at the audacity, the lieutenant orders everyone to attack at once, vowing to finish the boy off for sure this time. Preparing his stance, the protagonist notices his mind is strangely calm for a first real battle. Thanks to Tang gun, Akaik's memories, he feels the confidence of a war veteran running through his veins. Even though he was rejected by magic, the path of the poison demon remains etched in his soul. Fully focused, he whispers to himself that he can handle this. In a devastating blow, our MC invokes the art of the poison blade and fires an absurd greenish slash. Tearing through the wind, the blast of energy hits the squad head-on. From the violent impact, the goons are thrown far, dropping like flies. Using the ghost steps technique, the kid dodges the attacks at a bizarre speed, disappearing from view. Concentrating pure poison in his hand, he prepares his next brutal skill. With the poisonous blood palm, he strikes the enemies, releasing a deadly toxin into the air. Right after the impact, the green explosion throws everyone to the ground, breaking their defenses. Desperate in the smoke, one of the soldiers screams for the commander, begging for help. Losing patience, the lieutenant pulls out a futuristic pistol and tells our MC to drop dead once and for all. Firing at the target, the weapon spits a blast of concentrated energy. However, the shot only grazes him, kicking up smoke without causing any real damage. Sliding across the battlefield, our boy appears unscathed, his eyes radiating power. Cold as ice, he bluntly states that the attack was too slow. Taking a heavy step back, the lieutenant finally feels the true weight of the danger. On the forest floor, the goons start coughing in agony, asking what the heck was injected into them. Walking calmly, our MC explains that even the Awakens suffer just the same when it comes to poison. In complete shock, the captain questions how someone without a tattoo can use advanced combat skills. Mocking the question, the boy comments that Master Tang would be offended and asks how it feels to be on the receiving end of a beatdown. Staring at the human garbage, the kid asks if it isn't a disgusting feeling to be treated like an insect. With a mouth full of black blood, the lieutenant cries in terror and begs for his own life, calling our MC, "Sir." Without a shred of pity, the boy grabs the coward's neck with crushing force. In a muffled scream, the villain despairs, feeling death's grip tighten. Lifted from the ground like a doll, the scumbag struggles as the toxic energy burns through his veins. Gasping and nearly blacking out, the officer tries to threaten him, asking if our MC knows who's behind him. The poison quickly seizes his throat, but the guy chokes out the name, Mitsuyu, before passing out. With a dry snap, the kid finishes the job and breaks the enemy's neck right there. Covered in the blood of traitors, our hero drops the body to the ground, surrounded by the smoke of victory. With a smirk, he lets out a dark laugh, savoring the taste of revenge. Full of determination, he tells the wind not to worry, because he has no intention of going down quietly. Far away, the story explains that the Salmon Empire was formed by the merger of Korea, China, and Japan after the Great World Chaos. In the protagonist's hometown, called Paju, the arid lands are still under his family's domain. Inside a luxurious military office, an officer asks in shock if Taeju was discharged after an assassination attempt. On the other side of the desk, the report confirms that Jang In-dong's squad attacked him by surprise during a reconnaissance mission. After the ambush at the cliff, the report says that Lieutenant Kim miraculously survived but was discharged and vanished off the map. In the forest, the traitorous squad was supposedly devoured by magical beasts while trying to flee the scene. Investigating the tracks, the officer reveals that the betrayal was ordered by mercenaries affiliated with the Japanese. With a completely stoic face, the general is not at all pleased with this news. With a heavy sigh, the boy's own father immediately figures out that this is all the work of Mitsui, his current wife. This Honda Mitsui is the daughter of an elite Japanese family, and the wicked stepmother who always wanted our MC in a coffin. To ensure the Paju lands were passed directly to her own children, she waited her whole life for the reject to pass away. But since he insisted on living, even while sick at 29, the woman lost it and had her family send someone to erase the kid. Thoughtfully, the general admits the situation is serious, but the family lands are going bankrupt, and they desperately need financial support from the Japanese. Cold and calculating, he decides the only viable option is to swallow his pride and cover up this whole mess. Promptly, the subordinate understands the corrupt order and promises to clean up the tracks of the assassination. Shutting the door, the officer slips out, leaving the general alone in the room. Alone, the trash father tries to justify his cowardly act, saying the rejected son was going to perish from mana overload anyway. In his mind, he concludes it's better to ignore the crime to protect the healthy heirs than to start a war over a cursed son. Looking out the window to seal the final abandonment, he says he won't look for the boy and tells him to live the rest of his days in hiding if he wants to survive. Near the Empire's borders, the protagonist observes a massive city from the top of Jirisan Mountain. With a heavy backpack, he admires the impressive view of the free city of Guri. Beside him, an older adventurer called Chief asks if it's the boy's first time there. Smiling, the chubby man jokes that the newbie must not know much about the place, since he's so impressed. 300 years ago, Guri was just a small country town in old South Korea before mana changed everything. Since the Jirisan Mountains became filled with dangerous monsters, the emperor declared the region a free hunting ground. To encourage the slaying of beasts, the government eliminated taxes on magical items and turned a blind eye to illegal goods. Right after the liberation, mercenaries from all over the world flooded the city in search of easy money by killing monsters. Because of this, the chief explains that Guri became an economic powerhouse, producing 20% of all items in the empire. Despite the wealth, the veteran warns our MC to be careful, as the city is infested with dangerous criminals. Ready to head down the mountain, the team leader tells the group to get a move on and focus on the job. Adjusting the backpack, our boy agrees in silence, focused on his own goal. After surviving the cowardly army ambush, he had nowhere to go and needed a refuge. Alone on a rainy night, he decided to cut ties with everyone to focus on getting stronger. Disguised as a simple baggage carrier, he found the perfect cover in monster hunting. Since the Emperor's authority is weak in that region, it would be almost impossible for his family to track him. Besides being the perfect hideout, the Jurazin forest is full of toxic herbs and poisonous monsters, ideal for his training. Focused on martial arts, he still finds it bizarre to use that term but blindly trusts his inherited power. Thanks to fate, the soul of the poison demon Tang merged with his moments before his end. Ironically, the assassination attempt orchestrated by Honda Mitsui ended up giving him supreme power. Since he doesn't have the strength or money for revenge yet, he uses the porter job to level up in secret. During the walk, the chief strikes up a conversation and asks who the boy thinks is the strongest in their group. Pointing to a red-haired swordswoman up ahead, the veteran reveals her name is Li Ha Nul and she's already a regular rank professional hunter. In this world, a regular rank is already a level above initiates, showing the girl has talent. Watching from a distance, our MC notices that the mana flow of another female hunter in the group is very strange. Suddenly, the woman's eyes roll back and she blacks out completely, collapsing to the ground. In an instant, the team panics upon realizing that a three-striped variant mosquito attacked the woman. Confused by the commotion, the boy doesn't understand why everyone is terrified of a simple insect. Without wasting time, the red-haired swordswoman jumps to the front, preparing a fire spell to toast the pest. With her eyes glowing with flames, she aims at the giant mosquito, ready to incinerate the flying creature. With a war cry, the redhead launches a massive fireball straight at the target. The explosion lights up the entire forest, turning the insect to ash in the blink of an eye. Once the shock wears off, our MC asks the chief why the whole group nearly had a heart attack over a single bite. Worried, the man explains that if that thing bites you, your mana simply vanishes from your body, and you pass out on the spot. Assessing the symptoms, the boy realizes this perfectly matches the poisons from Master Tang's memories. Discreetly, he approaches the fallen woman and decides to test his poisonous spiritual healing art. With his hands glowing with green energy, he draws out the toxin, and the woman wakes up with a jolt, asking what happened. Impressed by the effectiveness of his own power, the boy looks at his hands and notices he successfully absorbed the insect's poison. Not noticing the magical cure, the team chief suggests they retreat, since they don't have anti-insect gear. Suddenly, a loud noise comes from the bushes, grabbing everyone's attention. On high alert, the leader's eyes widen as he senses a heavy presence approaching. Immediately, the team draws their weapons and gets into battle formation, expecting the worst. From the bushes jumps a single, harmless bunny, breaking the tension of the moment. Relieved, the mercenaries start laughing, thinking it was a false alarm over a weak animal. Laughing at himself, the leader tells the crew to relax and get ready to head home. In the blink of an eye, the chief's expression changes from relief to pure terror. The red-haired swordswoman barely has time to turn before she's sent flying. With a brutal impact, a giant club smashes the group's defenses, kicking up dirt everywhere. From the darkness of the forest emerges a muscular orc, and right behind him, an entire battalion appears. Without warning, the green ambush surrounds the mercenaries from all sides, cutting off their escape route. Bleeding on the ground, the redhead yells for the group to grab the wounded and run, while she buys time with fire magic. Desperate, the chief calls for our MC, begging him to retreat with the other porters. Keeping his cool, the kid adjusts his jacket and tells them to go on ahead, because he's staying. Confused by the newbie's craziness, the leader grabs his arm, reminding him that they are just porters, not fighters. Cold as ice, the boy asks the man to take care of the wounded woman and assures him that his presence won't make the outcome any worse. Given the urgency, the kid uses a definitive tone, warning there's no time to argue, and promising to provide cover from a distance. Giving in to his stubbornness, the chief tells him not to get himself offed, and runs off with the wounded. Alone with the red-haired mage, our MC analyzes the monster's formation and realizes the orc's attack is too organized. Furious, the girl fires spears of fire at the brutes, screaming for them to burn. In the midst of the chaos, she turns her head and yells that one of the orcs broke through the blockade and is heading for the civilians. Stomping hard, the monster ignores the flames and charges straight to annihilate the fleeing group. Annoyed by the creature's audacity, the mage prepares another attack, asking where it thinks it's going. With a swift move, she raises a gigantic wall of fire, blocking the orc's advance, which burns to a crisp. From the heat of the fire, smoke rises, temporarily obscuring the view of the battlefield. Suddenly, the girl's eyes widen in pure shock as she feels a gigantic shadow behind her. Out of nowhere, our MC screams with all his might, telling the raidhead to get down immediately. A second orc emerges from the smoke, ready to bring its lethal axe down on the defenseless mage's head. Far away and out of normal time, the story cuts to the immortal realm floating in the clouds. A beautiful paradise full of flying islands and celestial mountains shows where the Poison Master ended up. With his back turned, Old Man Tang observes the majestic landscape, revealing it's been a month since he arrived in this divine place. Smiling, he admits he only managed to ascend to the heavens thanks to the soul fusion with the boy, Taju, who lives in the world of mana. The clash of realities and the memories of Earth gave the Master the wisdom needed to break his mortal limits. Satisfied, he finally achieved the immortality he had sought his entire life. But suddenly the old man clenches his fist so tightly that his veins bulge, overflowing with pure hatred. His face contorted with rage, he bellows that the immortal realm isn't a paradise, but a prison for wretched gods. Laughing insanely, the old man points to the sky, full of immortals battling like madmen, and says the place is an asylum of sword legends. Flying between the islands, the masters exchange destructive blows while Tang grumbles about the ridiculous speed of these folks. With a sigh of frustration, he realizes he wasted years of his mortal life just to end up in a chaotic arena where everyone acts like a beast. But even annoyed, he decides to look on the bright side, since this dimensional prison at least allowed the soul connection with our boy. Staring into the void of the celestial sky, the master asks in a whisper how his hair is doing in the world below. Thanks to the hellish environment, the demon says he became an absolute lord and sincerely hopes the kid can find happiness using this power. To overcome the madness of the immortals, the boy would need to reach the 7th star of the poisonous spiritual art and grow as quickly as possible. With a nostalgic smile, the master wishes for a future reunion and promises to look for new techniques to teach when the time comes. In the middle of his promise, he dodges a piece of rock that nearly cracks his head. Furious at the lack of respect, the chubby poison master bellows, questioning how a sword mage dares to underestimate his flying blades. Laughing like a psycho, he vows to end the swordsman and charges, breaking everything in his path. Back on Earth, the monstrous orc slams into the wall of flames and lets out a bizarre grunt. Before the beast can land the lethal blow, a voice echoes from nowhere, telling the mage to get down. The axe slashes through the air, creating sparks and nearly decapitating the redhead. With a grimace, the girl clicks her tongue, frustrated at not being able to react in time. From the bushes, a green aura cuts through at the speed of sound and hits the big guy head on. The impact throws the orc aside, saving the mage's life at the last possible second. Sliding in with style, our MC lands on the ground, ready to show them how the job is done right. Focused on the target, he mutters to himself that he's finally going to test his new wide area hidden weapons technique. In a fluid motion, dozens of green, energized coins explode from his hand, tearing through the green horde like paper. The projectiles pierce flesh and bone in the blink of an eye, slicing through the entire orc battalion. In less than a second, the metallic rain clears the battlefield, leaving only silence and the smell of blood. After the lightning-fast attack, the kid lands softly as the used coins pop onto the ground. Surprised by his own feat, he admits he didn't expect to wipe everyone out in a single hit but confesses it was pretty satisfying. Nearby, the mage is still unconscious, leaving the boy unsure of what to do with her. Not wasting time on moral dilemmas, he decides the best option is to bail quickly before the rescue story brings trouble. The main plan is to disappear off the map and not let the news of this massacre reach his father's ears in the Empire. With a smirk, he mentally thanks Old Man Tang for completely changing his rejected life in just 1 month. While packing up, he notices he forgot to put away his improvised weapons, and sighs, remembering that hiding evidence is a pain. Crouching on the ground like a child, the kid starts picking up the scents, grumbling about the high production cost of that bizarre technique. Focused on the collection, he remembers that at the 7th level of the technique, retrieving the weapons would be automatic, so the goal is to level up like crazy, and fast. During his search for the last lost coin, he looks around and approaches a giant tree. As soon as he finds the piece stuck in the bark, his expression changes. Pinned by the coin, the 3-striped variant mosquito is stuck to the tree, wiggling its legs. With a serious look, his mind starts working, putting the pieces of what just happened together. Immediately, our MC injects mana into his hand, feeling the exact resonance of the toxin that affected the swordswoman minutes before. Aware of the reports, he knows very well that this region was never the natural habitat of the cursed mosquito. With disgust, he analyzes the crushed insect that knocked out the redhead in 1 hit. The real danger of the poison isn't the bite itself, but the way it dissolves the life energy inside the host's body. The effect makes any mage temporarily lose their connection to mana, dropping to the ground like a rock. Connecting the dots, the kid compares it to the energy dispersing toxin very common in the old martial world. The big problem is that on modern Earth, people still don't know the cure for this energy-focused poison. Optimistically, he deduces that if he can analyze the exact components through the master's memories, an antidote can be created soon. And the first step is Bizarra open his mouth, pop the whole mosquito in there, and give it a good chew to get the essence. Wiping his lips with the back of his hand, he swallows the insect hard, processing the crazy thing he just did in the name of science. In a few seconds, his brain processes the taste, and he confirms that the chemical components are identical to those from the other world. Licking his lips, our MC gives a calculating smile, knowing he just needs to gather some herbs nearby to make the cure. He plans to test the recipe as soon as he gets back to camp, smelling pure profit. However, the moment of peace dies as soon as he feels a weird vibration shaking the ground. Startled, his eyes widen, alerted by the bizarre aura coming from behind him. From the darkness of the trees, a monstrous orc with runic tattoos reveals itself, breaking through the thicket. Unlike the common ones, this giant elite has eyes glowing blood, red, and gutturally commands a human to perish. From its colossal size and strange ability to speak, the kid knows he's not dealing with just any forest creature. Aware of mercenary rumors, he recognizes the monster as an extremely rare and dangerous Awakens elite. Completely tense, he wonders what madness is happening in the mountains for this many anomalies to sprout out of nowhere. Roaring with fury, the abomination attacks, bringing its axe down with overwhelming force. The monster quickly focuses on its target, preparing a clean strike. The brutal impact of iron on the stone ground creates a fissure, tearing the earth and shaking everything around. Sent flying by the impact, our boy narrowly dodges, feeling the wind from the attack on his back. Landing firmly, he grabs a few coins from his pack, betting that normal attacks might not even scratch this beast's hide, and decides to go all out at once. Gathering a lot of energy, he activates the technique at a higher level, shaping the coins into a large cone of light called a single flash. The concentrated attack cuts through the air toward the creature's chest with absolute piercing power. But the elite reacts, raising its massive black axe like a shield. With a dry thud, the strongest flying dagger technique explodes against the steel without causing a shred of real damage. Watching the smoke clear, the kid's expression hardens, confirming his suspicion that he needs something more. If the concentrated blow failed, he notes that throwing multiple daggers at once would be suicide against this natural armor. Furious, the red-eyed monster breathes heavily, focusing entirely on its tiny enemy. Giving up on the coins, our MC inflates his hand with dense poison, betting that the blood seal palm will be enough. In the middle of his run, he shakes his head, frustrated for having retreated at a crucial moment of danger. He wonders how pathetic Master Tang would find this fearful posture and decides to swallow his pride. It hits him, and he understands he got too arrogant just because he wiped out some dumb orcs minutes ago. Covering his entire body with greenish flames of pure toxicity, he prepares for the final charge, vowing that nothing else will stand in his way. In a continuous motion, he advances, breaking the sound barrier, repeating the absolute motto of the poison demon. The orc's axe and the boy's toxic aura meet in the middle of the clearing. The collision makes the entire forest tremble, and a green shockwave shatters the trees, marking the epic clash between the two. Spitting blood, the kid feels the crushing impact on his bones before he even hits the ground. A violent boom shakes the forest as the orc slams its massive green axe into the center of the clearing. Kicking up a cloud of dust, the beast pulls its weapon back as if it were nothing. With a superior stance, the elite glares at the boy sprawled on the dirt, nearly unconscious. Coughing up dirt, our MC grumbles to himself, realizing his attack was too shallow to cause real damage to that stone-like body. Taking a deep breath and swallowing the pain, he smiles and says if it's going to be a slugfest, that's fine by him. Clenching his fists, the green aura begins to shine again, much more intensely. In a blinding flash, thousands of threads of poisonous mana envelop the orc's body, tearing through its armor and skin in the blink of an eye. Surprised by his own strength, his eyes widen in disbelief at the damage he just caused. The giant monster collapses to the ground, and the kid stands there incredulous, questioning how the heck he managed to dice up an Awakens elite so easily. Trying to process the bizarre victory, he scratches his head, thinking about the lame excuse he's going to tell the Porter group. Suddenly, a group of adventurers armed to the teeth arrives at the scene of the slaughter. Staring at the pile of bodies, a man in a suit analyzes the boy and notices the lack of an Awakens tattoo on his face. Confused by the impossible scene, the suited man directly asks how a nobody without mana managed to massacre an entire horde alone. Totally intimidating, the man demands an answer, revealing himself to be Lee Jungak, the master of the Nogoden Guild and captain of the Gurai Watchers. Sensing the overwhelming aura, our MC immediately realizes he's not dealing with just anyone and decides to act very carefully to not reveal his poison secret. Focusing on the act, he bows his head in a humble posture just as the Porter chief arrives, shouting his name. Running desperately, the old man ignores the boy and frantically asks about the state of the precious cargo. Relieved, the kid points to Master Lee, saying the knight arrived just in time and saved the day. Surprised by the illustrious presence, the chubby chief bows his head, thanking him and apologizing for the delay. In the shadows, the story explains that since Guri is a free city far from the emperor, the people are governed by an autonomous committee. And this Lord Lee Jungak is not just a powerful master but also one of the three big shots who control public safety in the region. Shaking in his boots, the chief taps our MC on the back, whispering that they need to pay a bribe so this guild doesn't crush them. Forcing the issue, the old man tells the boy to properly thank the one who saved their lives in the chaos. Confused by the lie, the guild master stares at the kid, trying to figure out if he's really just a pathetic porter. Laughing nervously, our MC confirms the act, swearing it was the red-haired mage who obliterated all the orcs by herself before fainting from exhaustion. Luckily for him, the guild soldiers arrive carrying the unconscious swordswoman and confirm the fabricated story. Out of patience, the suited master turns his back and orders his troop to collect everything and get out of there. Staring into the dense forest, the Lord sighs, finding the whole thing very suspicious, but decides not to dig deeper. Before disappearing into the shadows, he turns his head and warns the boy not to cause trouble in Guri, as a next encounter would be very unpleasant. Sighing in relief, the chief celebrates that the Lord is finally gone and advises the kid not to get too confident. To survive comfortably in the city, he warns that it's best to avoid crossing the guild's path as much as possible and live like a shadow. Curious about the advice, our MC asks if Lord Lee is really such a bad guy, since he just seemed a bit arrogant. Without mincing words, the veteran explains that the guy is corrupt to the core and only pretends to be a hero while taking money from criminals. Resigned to this trash world, the chief says masters are like natural disasters, and the best thing to do is always run away from them fast. Adjusting the torn backpack, our boy gets the message perfectly. Looking at his own reflection in a puddle of blood, he reflects on the bizarre last month of survival after the soul fusion. Totally ashamed of his own actions, he bows his head and apologizes to the spirit of Master Tang Ache. Promising change, his eyes glow a deadly green as he vows to stop acting like a complacent coward, just because he got a little bit of martial power. As the afternoon ends, the city of Guri lights up, revealing the lights and progress of the free metropolis. Due to the absurd danger of the region, very few doctors dare to open hospitals there, making it difficult to treat any serious injury. Most of the healers operating in the shadows are rejected mercenaries who fled the law, so normal folks avoid them like the plague. Thanks to this, the city's drugstores have completely dominated the local market, healing the wounded on the fly. In these shops, pharmacists have full government authorization to prescribe and sell absurd magical items right over the counter. Focused on sure profit, mercenaries prefer to spend rivers of money on efficient potions, rather than risk their lives in a dirty clandestine hospital. Completely hooded and masked, our MC faces the heavy rain, holding 3 small brown vials filled with liquid gold. Tired to the bone, he mutters about how he suffered for a whole month, just to create this chemical masterpiece. Focused on getting rich, he celebrates achieving the 3rd phase of the spiritual art of poison, ensuring he won't get beaten by any half-baked orc now. Smiling at his own future, he drills it into his mind that if he closes this deal, he won't have to work like a mule on the mountain anymore. Pushing the glass door, the bell of Bake's drugstore rings, announcing the mysterious customer. From behind the counter, the friendly receptionist welcomes him while arranging the shelves of mana potions. Cold and direct, she asks what he wants to buy, suggesting instant magic bandages or common herbs. Ignoring the offers, the hooded boy demands to speak directly with the boss and owner of the establishment. Surprised by the strange customer's audacity, she raises an eyebrow, not understanding the wet kid's attitude. In silence, the woman processes the suspicious request, while a gray-haired old man in the back of the store pays attention to the conversation. Stroking his mustache, the veteran sizes up the kid from head to toe, trying to read his intentions. Revealing himself, the owner, named Baek Hong Pyo, announces he's the boss there and tells the kid to spit it out. With a firm posture, our MC gets straight to the point, stating he doesn't want to buy anything, but to sell a wicked medicine. Sighing with pure boredom, the veteran pharmacist complains about how every day some street vendor shows up thinking they've invented sliced bread. Turning his back scornfully, he tells the boy to go to the flea market, because his elite pharmacy doesn't accept crappy homemade potions. Without blinking, the kid pulls out the brown vial and slams it on the counter, telling the old man to focus. Annoyed by the audacity, the owner turns quickly and repeats that he's not interested in buying suspicious junk from strangers. Ignoring the scolding, our MC calmly announces that the little bottle contains the pure antidote for the 3-striped mosquito bite. Instantly, the entire store freezes, and the old man's mustache trembles in pure shock. Staring at the dark glass bottle, the old man knows perfectly well that there is no cure for it anywhere in the entire empire. With a perfect commercial tone, the kid instructs that the medicine should be taken in advance, acting like a protective vaccine. Twirling the vial in his fingers, he warns that the effect lasts for exactly 10 hours, allowing hunters to explore the nests without fear. Suddenly, the owner's face changes, and he presses his forehead, exploding with pure anger and frustration. Yelling, the old man calls the boy an insolent brat, telling him to come up with a more believable scam next time. Maintaining a heavenly peace, our MC pulls out 2 more vials and lines them up perfectly in front of the terrified attendant. Adjusting his hood, he advises the grumpy old man to test the vials in practice and call if he changes his mind about becoming a billionaire. Sliding a white card across the counter, he sets the final deadline at midnight sharp, calling the absolute bluff. Turning his back and ignoring the insults, he waves from a distance, warning that he'll offer it to the competition if the phone doesn't ring. The store plunges into a deadly silence as the pair stares at the slamming door and the magical vials on the counter. Running a hand through his hair, the old man mutters in disbelief, asking the heir if that masked youth is completely out of his mind. At the pharmacy counter, a burly adventurer stares at our MC's vial with shining eyes. Dressed in heavy armor, the guy named Jin Su is a squad leader addicted to magic potions and asks the owner if the liquid really works. Totally skeptical, the old man swallows hard and admits he has no idea if it's real or a scam. Excited by the novelty, the knight reaches out and grabs the brown bottle directly from the counter. Laughing at the situation, he says there's only one way to find out if the green miracle is real. Sighing heavily, the pharmacy owner confesses he doesn't have much hope, since the big corporations never found a cure for the cursed mosquito. But the hooded boy's blind confidence left the old man with a nagging suspicion. Without a second thought, the potion addict pops the cork and chugs the liquid right there in the middle of the store. Desperate, the attendant yells, telling the madman to stop drinking an unverified substance. Blinking in confusion, the warrior wipes his mouth and says the stuff tastes very familiar. Surprised, the owner's eyes widen and he repeats the question, wanting to know if the so-called magic cure is just tap water. With a bored look, the knight nods and says he drinks so many potions he can tell the lack of mana right away. Totally disappointed, the owner grabs the other 2 vials and throws them straight into the trash. Grumbling, he calls the boy a street scammer, vowing never to fall for a sob story again. After paying for the normal remedies, the warrior picks up his basket and prepares to leave. Curious, the owner asks if the addict's team is heading out to hunt the frog monsters in the mountains right now. Counting the money, the knight confirms the mission but complains that the price of normal potions is absurdly expensive. Waving goodbye, he opens the door and jokes that he's late for the hunt thanks to the miracle water tasting. Alone in the shop, the old man sighs, agreeing that creating an antidote like that in a home kitchen is pure fantasy. Far away in the mountains, the sun begins to set, and magical explosions light up the dense forest. From the bushes, a monster resembling a giant dog growls, baring its sharp teeth. Quickly, a blue shield shines, kicking up dust and blocking the beast's attack. A scream of pain tears through the air as red claws break through the defenses and slice nearby trees. Desperate, the squad's mage cries out in agony, asking what the heck a blade-toothed mutant weasel is doing in this low-level area. Swinging her sword, she informs the leader Jin Su that the path behind them is clear and begs everyone to retreat before they all perish. Coughing up blood, she says the entire group has been poisoned by mosquitoes and her body is already paralyzing from lack of mana. With a deadly expression, the leader holds the magical defense and tells the group to hang on a little longer. He vows that the situation will be resolved if they take down the giant weasel right there. But in the middle of his speech, his eyes lose focus, and an infernal buzzing invades the warrior's ears. Out of the corner of his eye, he sees the cursed 3-striped mosquito landing right on his neck. In a panic, he realizes that if the leader also gets poisoned, the entire team is headed for a coffin today. Before his brain can react, the bite happens, and the magic shield already starts to flicker, indicating a mana break. Looking around, he puts the pieces of the disaster together, knowing everything has gone wrong. The squad came to hunt weak frogs with mosquito-proof clothing, but the darn blade-toothed weasel tore through their protections right at the start. With their armor breached, the insects swarmed in and took down the magic team one by one until the captain himself became a target. Surrounded by mosquitoes and the mutant weasels that blocked their exit, the massacre seems inevitable. Desperate, the knight accepts that the mission has turned into a fight for pure survival. Bleeding, the mage yells for the captain to focus on the fight and watch out for the swift attack. The big guy's eyes widen as the elite weasel lunges straight for his throat. Tearing through the wind, the beast makes its deadly pounce, ready to finish off the poisoned leader. With an absurd boom, the red claws clash against the mana shield, cracking the defense in an instant. The force of the impact kicks up dirt and throws the beast back, but the blue barrier shatters completely. Unharmed, the knight opens his eyes in shock and checks his hands. Strangely, he notices that only the spell broke, but his body is still full of strength and energy. As it dawns on him, he remembers the miraculous tap water he drank at the old man's pharmacy hours ago. Renewed, the warrior swallows his fear and tells everyone to regroup right there. Holding his sword firmly, he vows that if the kid's potion is the real deal, they're going to wipe the floor with these weasels. Leaping into the air with speed, he drives his magic blade straight into the mutant beast, which howls in pain. Smiling like a madman, he shouts that the potion works and their chance of getting out alive is 100%. Hours later in the city, the pharmacy sign glows in the silent dawn. With a brutal crash, the glass door flies off its hinges, and the bell rings in the middle of the closed shop. Startled, the old owner runs out from the back, asking who the maniac breaking down his door at this hour is. Desperate, the leader Jin Su arrives covered in blood and bellows, demanding the miracle bottles from that morning. In the morning on Guray's commercial street, our protagonist walks calmly, admiring the madness of the Free Cities market. At the stalls, butchers shout, advertising freshly slaughtered monster meat for an absurdly cheap price. In other shops, the windows display heavy armor made from the beast's carapaces, sold for a song. Enchanted by the abundance, the kid who grew up hidden in the mountains finds the city absolutely wonderful and alive. Smiling under his hood, he thanks himself for taking a day off from the hard work. Thanks to his evolution to level 3 in the art of poison, the delicate manipulation needed to create potions became possible. However, the forced process exhausted his poison core, and now he needs a day off for his body to return to normal. Back in the present, he finds himself in a luxurious penthouse, signing paperwork with the drugstore owner and laughing at the situation. Agitated in all business, like the grumpy old man changes his attitude completely and says he'll buy absolutely all the stock. Sipping coffee, our MC smirks and asks if the antidote worked miracles in the mountains and saved lives. Totally ecstatic, the owner says this cure will turn hunting in Jirisan upside down in a matter of days. Regretting his ignorance, the old man praises the boy, calling him a genius, and swears he didn't see the shining diamond in the rough. Changing the subject to what matters, he asks about the stock size, and is surprised when the kid gives an absurd number of 60,000 vials ready for sale. Full of cunning, the boy warns that if the bottles run out, he can forge many more without breaking a sweat. Reading the crazy contract, the old man notes that the production cost of each potion is 10,000 won, and he wants to sell them over the counter for 50,000 a unit. Holding back a laugh, our guy doesn't mention that he spends less than 100 won to make the stuff with weeds from the mountain, pretending the offered profit is totally fair. Quickly adding up the money, he realizes he's going to make an easy 3 billion and smiles at the ceiling. Changing the contract a bit, the boy suggests supplying the medicine exclusively for 35,000 won a bottle, cutting a good chunk of his own profit. Curious about the intentional loss, the old man asks why he would lower the price so drastically. Looking at the old man's resume, he mentions that the pharmacist secretly runs the main orphanage in Gurai, donating his own profits to the kids. In exchange for the low price, our MC holds up the contract and asks for just a safe space inside the shop to manufacture the antidotes in peace. Charmed by the inventor's good heart, the owner shakes his hand firmly, calls it a divine miracle, and seals the partnership to get rich while saving the world. With the 1 billion contract signed and his pockets full of cash, the kid struts down Gurai's main street. Hiding in an alley, he notices several shops full of cool gear he could never afford when he was a broke porter. Suddenly, a bald vendor at a weapons stall shouts, trying to get his attention and push his merchandise. Turning his head, the boy raises an eyebrow, surprised to be picked out of the crowd. Rubbing his muscular arms, the vendor guarantees his forge is the best in the region and tells our MC not to look anywhere else. Full of slick talk, the muscular bald guy even throws in a cheap pickup line, saying that because he's a handsome guy, he'll give him a special discount. Uncomfortable with the bizarre compliment, the boy immediately refuses, saying he doesn't need anything at the moment. Before he can take a step, the vendor grabs the kid's shoulder with a vise-like grip. Forcing the issue, the bald guy tries to drag the customer into the shop, insisting he just take a quick look, no strings attached. With a deadly glare, the boy simply plants his feet on the ground and pushes the giant's hand away with absurd ease. Impressed by the immense strength, the vendor immediately realizes the kid has an internal energy worthy of a 3-star master blacksmith. Fascinated, our MC enters the shop and starts running his hand over the displayed swords, admiring the gleam of the blades. Observing every detail, his eyes glow green, noticing that the finish on the weapons is incredibly perfect. Changing his mind, he mentally admits the bald guy wasn't lying and that the shop really has high-level equipment. With his confidence restored, he turns to the owner and asks directly if the guy can forge a custom order of 100 pieces. Handing a drawing over the counter, the boy asks for daggers in the shape of willow leaves, a type of weapon extremely rare in the current empire. Analyzing the paper, the blacksmith frowns, noting that the blades are too small for normal combat use. Smiling, our MC asks if the order is impossible. Pounding his chest, the bald guy says it's a piece of cake but warns that the base material needs to be mana steel to cause damage, and he's low on stock. Calculating the cost in his head, he estimates a price of 250 million won, considering the rare material and labor. Swallowing hard, the kid accepts the $1 million price on the spot, realizing that Master Tang's techniques burn through money at an absurd speed. Sealing the deal, our MC gives the delivery address and leaves the shop with the order secured. On the street, he crosses the daggers off his list and mutters that the next priority is to find armor that can withstand an orca's punch. In the memories of the martial world, Master Tang wore long robes full of hidden pockets, perfect for storing potions and weapons. But wearing a historical robe in the middle of a modern city, he admits he'd look like a crazy cosplayer, drawing too much attention. Looking at the shop windows, he wonders where he'll find a modern piece of clothing that can hide all this lethal junk. Out of the corner of his eye, he notices a chic mannequin in a luxury boutique across the street. A saleswoman with fox ears hands out flyers at the door, advertising a new collection of coats made entirely from monster hides. Noticing a stylish long overcoat, he realizes the internal pockets are perfect for hiding his poison vials. Smiling at the mannequin, the boy nods to himself, praising the piece's good taste and practical design. Entering the boutique, the boy finds the place empty except for the red-haired swordswoman arguing with a suited manager. Recognizing the woman from the massacre, he thinks about turning back to avoid trouble and having his identity leaked. Immediately, the redhead turns her head and calls his name in front of everyone, stopping his escape. Cornered by the manager, she approaches the kid and explains that she tried to take credit for the orc's demise because the guild started asking dangerous questions. Full of guilt, the mage admits she only fainted from exhaustion after the boy himself had already cleared the battlefield. Sincerely, she says that even though she took the glory, she wouldn't forget who really saved her, and thanks him from the bottom of her soul. Grateful for her discretion, the boy nods, not quite sure how to react to such honesty. Embarrassed, he cuts the conversation short, saying the redhead should calm down because he only attacked the orcs to test his own poison, not out of heroism. Sighing, he questions if he really deserves all this gratitude since he saved her life almost by accident. Right in the middle of the heavy atmosphere, the boutique manager claps her hands, yelling at the red-haired mage for the delay. Completely terrified, the woman apologizes to her boss, stuttering her name. With her head bowed, the redhead tries to beg for the rich, spoiled customer's patience. Suddenly, the mage bows her head to the customer and says that unfortunately, she won't be able to sell the special overcoat she chose. Confused by the whole mess, the boy recognizes the long overcoat from the window and focuses his gaze on the argument. Furious, the manager yells, saying that the customer already had her measurements taken for the leather coat and asks what kind of joke this is, canceling the sale out of nowhere. Trying to stay calm, the red-haired mage explains that the coat was the most valuable item in her inventory. Unfazed, the spoiled customer crosses her arms and asks in a threatening tone the reason for the sudden change. Placing her hand on the saleswoman's face, the manager tells her to shut up and sell the coat, one way or another. Giving up on the humiliation, the customer turns her back and says she's tired of the drama, leaving the boutique immediately. The manager tears her hair out, screaming at the mage as the socialite disappears through the door, asking if she's lost her mind. Observing the pathetic scene, the kid concludes that the redhead's stubbornness just earned her a powerful enemy in a wealthy customer. After the little show, he curiously asks why on earth the woman canceled the sale of such $1 million item like that. With a grin from ear to ear, the mage drops a hint, saying that people think the boy is a bit slow on the uptake. Confused, he swears he's never heard anyone say that about him. Shaking her head in denial, the mage says there's no way he hasn't figured out her intentions yet. Maintaining a bored expression, our MC dryly asks what the heck she's trying to say. Without beating around the bush, the woman points to the silver fox fur coat and declares that the valuable item is a thank you gift for saving her life. Refusing on the spot, the boy crosses his arms, stating he can't accept such an absurdly expensive gift for no real reason. Her face hardening, the redhead insists, arguing that his real intention during the fight doesn't matter, only the fact that she's only breathing thanks to him. In an almost melancholic tone, she says she'd rather give her most valuable material possession now before one of them ends up perishing foolishly in the mountains, just like her old boyfriend. With wide eyes, our MC finally understands the weight of the gift, remembering that he spent his whole life only receiving criticism and insults from his useless family. Used to contempt, he remembers his stepmother and siblings always laughing at his illness. But now, feeling the warmth of a stranger's sincere gratitude, he lets out a small smile. Breaking the ice, he finally lets his guard down and accepts the mage's gift. Very excited, the redhead claps her hands happily and tells him to go get measured quickly before he changes his mind. Cutting back to the dimensional paradise, an immortal sighs heavily and yells to the universe that he's incredibly bored. Chewing on a magical weed, the so-called swordmaster dangles his legs from a cloud while the old geezers down below just talk about enlightenment. Tying up his white hair, immortal Dongjin complains about the monotony of the celestial realm, finding the place a total drag. Mocking his own colleagues, he insults everyone, calling them white, bearded old men who always wear the same boring robes. Suddenly, the master notices a guy in the corner wearing something completely different from the typical attire. Curious, he analyzes the newly arrived poison demon, who is wearing modern clothes just like the ones our MC wears on Earth. With his stylish jacket, Master Tang ignores the crowd and shows off a cool look, not caring about others' judgments. Observing the fashion-forward madman, the sword immortal considers asking the poisonous old man for some style tips just to break the boring routine. Getting up from the cloud, he decides that hanging out with that crazy guy must be at least entertaining. Taking a step, he plans to trade some heavy blows or techniques in exchange for some valuable modern suing tips. Biting a celestial peach, old man Tang ignores the commotion and finds the situation amusing, savoring the taste of the divine fruit. In the free city of Gurai, life continues at full speed, with immense skyscrapers cutting through the clouds. Flying buses cross the busy streets, showing that technology and magic have blended perfectly. Admiring the city view from a rooftop, a rich young woman assesses the futuristic scenery. She finds the architecture exaggerated, but her assistant beside her notes that this is the noble district, where only the elite can set foot. The secretary explains that the normal borders were destroyed by orcs, forcing all of Guri's money to concentrate in the expensive high-rise buildings. Disgusted by the inequality, the young blonde, Zhang Yaonhe, a military cadet and wealthy heiress, criticizes the powerful who hide there while the common folk suffer. Complaining about the danger, the fearful assistant questions if they really needed to travel to this backwater, just to buy a ghost fox fur coat. Patiently explaining, the blonde says the material isn't frivolous. Besides being super rare, the armor made from it is perfect for regulating body temperature in battle. Laughing at the military dedication, the secretary jokes that it's no wonder the heiress never takes a vacation and is always focused on heavy training. Taking advantage of the moment, the employee smiles and asks if she can spend a little of the blonde's grandfather's infinite money. The flying bus pulls up to the luxurious stop, and the doors open with a mechanical hiss. With a firm step, designer shoes touch the concrete, marking the arrival of the magnates in Guri. Determined, the cadet tells her assistant to lead the way straight to the Flame Boutique, without wasting time on sightseeing. In the shadows of an alley, the protagonist observes the intense movement of wealthy adventurers, wondering what the heck attracts so many fancy people to this dangerous city. Analyzing the photo of the ghost fur coat, the red-haired mage suggested, the kid agrees that the long design is the perfect substitute for Master Tang's robe. Pushing the door of the Flame Boutique, the bell rings, catching the attention of the store's customers. Immediately, the blonde heiress and her assistant turn their heads, annoyed by the entrance of a disheveled customer into a luxury place. Ignoring the dust, the red-haired mage working there welcomes the boy with a huge grin, thanking him for visiting. Suddenly, the woman throws her arms up and drops a hint, pretending not to know her savior well. Confused by the act, he tries to remember what happened last month and whispers, asking if she hit her head. With a mischievous smile, the redhead explains that helping at the store is her main job, and that monster hunting is just a side jig to earn extra cash and pay rent. Cutting to the orphanage sponsored by the old man from the pharmacy, the place seems much more lively thanks to the absurd sales of the new potion. In a dark hallway at the back of the building, a hidden staircase leads down to the secret basement. At the end of the path, the basement has been transformed into a huge laboratory where our MC is working like a madman. With the palm of his hand glowing with green energy, the poisonous art fuses normal herbs into a pure healing liquid. Panting and sweaty, he smiles with satisfaction after finishing the perfect conversion of the toxin, feeling his mana control is much sharper. Putting his phone to his ear, he answers the call from the old man at the pharmacy while wiping sweat from his forehead. Full of pride, the kid announces that the huge batch of undiluted solution is ready to be bottled. Over at the pharmacy, the old man sighs in relief at the speed and informs him that the old stock ran out yesterday due to the crazy sales success. On the ground floor, the pharmacy looks like a war zone, with adventurers yelling and pushing each other in line for the antidote. A hurried big guy tells his crew to buy the maximum limit possible, stocking up before the price goes up. With a calculating smile, the old pharmacist says on the phone that he's cut the quota to 2 bottles per person to contain the madness. Aware of the Empire's scammers, the owner asks worriedly if the kid isn't afraid the competition will steal the formula and create a cheaper, fake potion. Calm as water, our MC screws the cap on a finished vial and says he couldn't care less. He explains that without using the absurd control of the spiritual art of poison, the mixture becomes lethal, so it's mathematically impossible to copy the product, unless the guy is also a demon. Relieved that the monopoly is guaranteed, the old man from the pharmacy says he'll hold down the fort by controlling sales, and tells him to send the bottles down quickly. Hanging up the phone, the boy sighs in frustration, because bottling the solution takes much longer than performing the magic itself. Far away in the dark corridors of the basement, 2 little kids from the orphanage approach the locked door of the forging and fabrication room. With wide eyes, the little boy says the folks upstairs swear a bizarre ghost haunts that basement full of boxes. Swallowing his fear, the boy takes the lead, acting brave, and announces he's going to scare the intruding spirit out of their secret base. With a trembling hand, he turns the handle of the heavy metal door, and the creak echoes through the empty hallway. When the door finally opens, a green, toxic smoke billows out of the laboratory, revealing the macabre silhouette of our sweaty MC in the dark. With his eyes glowing a demonic purple due to the accumulated energy, the boy says, in a bizarre, hoarse voice. Terrified, the 2 children let out a piercing scream, falling to the floor and yelling like crazy as they flee from the stinky ghost. Running up the stairs, the orphans cry in terror, spreading the word to everyone that the evil spirit lives in the basement. Sighing in exhaustion, our MC grumbles, annoyed by the nickname, Stinky Ghost, remembering he just hasn't had time to shower because of the absurd demand for potions. Sniffing his own sweaty shirt, he finally realizes he's a mess and needs to do something about his hygiene urgently. Soon after, at the guild, the chubby leader is nearly having a heart attack, remembering he has a hunting appointment and needs to leave as soon as possible, begging the kid to cover for his tardiness. Wearing a clean shirt, our MC knocks on an office door, and a female voice immediately says to come in. Walking inside, the suited woman with long legs and a professional posture asks if he is the famous Kim Tae-ju. Recognizing the boy, she strikes up a conversation, saying her father, the pharmacy owner, mentioned the new, multi-million-dollar partnership between them. Surprised by the family connection, the kid extends his hand in a polite greeting, feeling that business will go smoothly. With a gentle smile, the woman named Baek Seo, Yeon, who helps take care of the orphanage, returns the handshake, thanking him for his hard work. Running a hand over her neck, she laughs a bit awkwardly, saying the younger children wouldn't stop screaming about a boogeyman in the basement. So she came down to see for herself if everything was okay. Cutting to the real objective, she pushes a heavy wooden box with the MX Workshop, melee weapons, written on it, revealing the package he was expecting. The kid's eyes light up as he reads the label, and he thanks her immensely, saying the blades arrived at the perfect moment. With a mischievous smile, the boss's daughter covers her nose and jokes that he should probably hit the showers before opening the box. Terribly embarrassed, the boy makes a quick exit, waving as the children in the hallway still run from him, calling him a monster. Alone in his room, he tears the tape off the box with his teeth, focused on the masterpiece that cost a violent amount of money to order. Lifting the lid, he comes face to face with 100 perfect daggers, lined up and gleaming, and finds a small pink note taped to the wood. Reading the cheesy message, the bald blacksmith notes, complete with a little heart, that he sent the prototype blades for him to test and request adjustments if needed. With a vein popping in his forehead from anger, our MC crumbles the paper, fuming at the bizarre flirting and the bald guy's habit of calling him sweetheart. Crumpling the note into a ball and throwing it against the wall, the boy grumbles, pleading for this ridiculous joke to end for good. Taking a deep breath to forget the pickup line, he focuses on the weapon and lifts one of the willow leaf daggers, feeling the weight of the metal. Sliding his finger along the blade's edge, a clean cut proves that the piece's cutting edge is monstrously lethal. Tossing the small knife into the air, he spins the weapon with mastery, testing its perfect balance. Wielding the dagger firmly, our MC smiles confidently and decides there's nothing to adjust, as the weapon is the ideal size and shape he needs to send any orc to heck. Dressed in clean clothes, he remembers the red-haired mage who offered to pay for the extra daggers with a huge discount in exchange for the miracle in the forest. Putting the blades away, he realizes he's extremely late for his meeting with the guild chief and needs to fly to the Rendezvous. A short time later, on the mountainous border of Jirisan, the air is tense, and the sound of beasts echoes in the distance. At a temporary military camp, armed soldiers sweep the terrain, preparing for the next slaughter in the infested area. Walking calmly with his hands in his pockets, the kid calls out to Chief O from a distance, announcing his arrival. Relieved, the chubby leader raises his arm and shouts, thanking the boy for not letting the group down on such an important day. With a firm handshake, our MC turns on the charm and says the honor is all his, promising to focus 1000% on the lethal hunt that's about to begin. Smiling gently, the boy says it was nothing, and that he's always ready to help the guild. Suddenly, a jerk with an angry face taps the sheath of his sword against his leg and curses at our MC, telling him to bow and apologize. With a ridiculous ponytail, the initiate rank mercenary Jang Won-jun complains about their socializing and tells them to focus on the job. Walking past the primped-up guy, our MC calmly warns him that he's crossing a dangerous line, reminding him that he arrived on time and has no reason to apologize to a nobody. Furious at the response, the initiate half draws his sword and threatens to cut the useless porter's face right there, a guy with no mana tattoo. Sighing with boredom, our boy focuses a green aura in his left eye, trying to control the absurd urge to rip the clown's head off. Desperate, the chubby chief whispers in our MC's ear, begging him to swallow his pride because the contract cancellation fee is too heavy for the guild to pay. Closing his eyes, the kid backs down and mutters a dry apology, accepting the insult for the old leader's sake. Thinking he won the exchange, the warrior sheathes his sword, telling everyone to get a move on and warning the boy to consider his life a stroke of pure luck. Climbing the mountain, the group advances through the forest, and the chief apologizes profusely to the boy for the humiliation, while the hunters in front grumble, telling the porters to hurry up. Analyzing the team from a distance, our MC notices the lack of people and asks in surprise why there are only 7 guys on a high-risk expedition. Shocked, the leader confirms the craziness, saying that with the anti-mosquito potions on the market, people cut half the support staff to save money on the final loot. Annoyed, the idiotic swordsman overhears the conversation and comes back to curse him out again, questioning if the trash porter is in such a hurry to perish. Trembling with anger, the coward growls that our MC has no right to question the group's tactics. With his eyes completely darkened by murderous intent, the kid glares at the human garbage and throws it in his face that everyone there has one foot in the grave. Drawing his sword completely this time, the swordsman warns that he's going to end the boy right there, and no one will care about a dead porter. In the middle of the confusion, the team captain, named Kwandong Suk, raises his hand and tells the warrior to calm down, asking who would carry the heavy load if he took out the kid. With a malicious smile, the captain laughs at the boy's audacity and comments that Guray's porters have been getting too lazy lately. Running his hand over his sword, the idiot backs off, laughing, and promises that if our MC tries to run, he'll slice him up without mercy. With his anger at its limit, the boy mentally questions if he should just snap everyone's neck right there to rid the forest of scum. But seeing the mountain landscape, he relaxes his fist as the captain orders the group to drink the so-called anti-mosquito potion and march on. Relieved, the chief whispers an apology to the boy, thanking him for his infinite patience. The story shows that the Jurisan region is infested with giant blade-toothed weasels, and it used to require dozens of mages just to contain the mosquitoes around their nest. With our MC's vials, the chubby leader says the fear has greatly diminished, allowing for smaller teams and more profit. Smiling, the kid replies that the invention is wonderful, feeling proud of the power that changed the entire hunting economy. Deep down, he remembers the red-haired mage who lost her boyfriend on a mission just like this one, because of the insects. Tipping his own vial to his lips, he pretends to drink but knows that the real change his power brought wasn't just saving weak lives. Watching the backs of the idiots laughing up ahead, our MC's murderous intent leaks out uncontrollably, darkening the air. Feeling his own blood boil, he wonders if he should just annihilate the entire team and leave no witnesses. The truth is, Master Tang's soul didn't just change the boy's body, it also infected his mind with the morals of the martial world. Thanks to the inherited poisonous heart, the boy's passive nature died, and now his primary instinct demands he eliminate any trash that disrespects his strength. In the memories of the shared soul, the toxic heart of the poisoned demon pulses with pure warrior pride. Falling from the sky like a black lightning bolt, Master Tang destroys enemies with a single move, showing how the ancient world worked. Back in reality, our MC ignores his own bloodlust and tells the chief to stick close to him during the hunt to avoid accidental demise. Lacking patience for the team's antics, the boy warns in a somber tone that he's not joking, and the chief swallows hard, feeling the atmosphere grow heavy. From behind the trees, he had already sensed a monstrous, murderous aura focused entirely on the arrogant expedition. Cutting to the past in the Murim, the Juj clan burns in orange flames in a total massacre. The poison demon walks through the burning ruins, leaving a trail of absolute destruction. Completely broken, the family's patriarch kneels, coughing up blood, and stares at the master of blades with pure terror. Desperate, the old man cries with hatred, asking what kind of madness possessed Tang Gun, act to exterminate an allied clan of good. Laughing in the darkness, Tang throws a blood-soaked cloth in the old man's face and asks who the real demon in the story is. Floating in the midst of the chaos, surrounded by purple magic swords, the poison master accuses the family of secretly allying with the demonic cult. Shocked by the slander, the patriarch denies everything, yelling that the 5 great families would never commit such a betrayal. Extending his hand in disgust, Tang calls the old man a coward, saying that scum always cries and lies before they meet their end. Trembling from head to toe, the old man sees his end coming as the master focuses lethal energy in the palm of his hand. Kicking the rival leader's severed head, Tang asks in a cold tone if the old man doesn't want to say to his dear little boy. The memory explains that the patriarch's son was slaughtering innocents to create blood pills, and the father was covering up the macabre scheme in the name of peace. Staring into the dead eyes of the enemy, the poison demon questions if the human garbage still thinks it's all a lie. With disgust, he vows that he hates cowards who use innocence as human shields to save their own rotten skin. Crying like a baby, the old man begs for mercy, promising to reveal all the secrets of the dark cult in exchange for his life. Raising his hand and activating the phantom blades, the master cuts him off, saying that thousands of righteous warriors perished because of this corruption. Focusing his pure white pupils of power, he delivers the final sentence, telling the scum to vanish from existence. In a violent flash, the energy destroys the old man's body, and Tang promises that he'll soon send the cult leader himself to meet his maker. Surrounded by magic swords and fire, the demon seals his own legend, punishing villains without trial or delay. Cutting back to Earth, the idiotic hunters take down a mutant weasel and joke about how ridiculously easy the hunt was, thanks to the antidote. The ponytail warrior admires an energy crystal and laughs, calling the porters useless cowards who are good for nothing but carrying weight. Swallowing his pride, the chief bows his head, apologizing for his clumsiness and pretending he's fine, while our MC just watches the show. Wiping his face, the boy grumbles that everyone there is going to perish in a matter of minutes anyway, so it's not worth wasting poison on trash. Smiling at the ground, he decides he won't use his powers to save anyone on that team, ensuring their ignorance will cost them dearly. Back at the front, the two hunters celebrate their first victory, thinking they're the kings of the mountain and laughing at the danger. Squinting, the boy raises his head and mentally warns that this is when the real fight is about to begin. The sound of heavy brush breaking echoes from the shadows, cutting off the idiotic group's laughter. Without wasting time, our MC grabs the chief's arm and tells him to stick to his back if he wants to get back to Gurai alive. A bizarre wolf with red fur and eyes glowing with fury leaps from the treetops, crushing the ground. The roar tears through the silence, confirming that the hunter has become the hunted in Jurison's worst nightmare. Completely in shock, the head porter stutters, paralyzed, staring at the giant snout of the crimson beast. Terrified, the ponytail swordsman shouts, asking where the hell a monster of this level came from. Keeping his cool, our MC tells the chief to relax, that they're both safe behind the front line. In a flash of knowledge, the kid recognizes the red-furred wolf and knows it's not a creature for a novice to kill. But the real disaster strikes when a second wolf steps into the clearing, proving the rule that these demons always hunt in pairs. Breaking out in a cold sweat, the idiotic warrior shouts to his partner, warning of the double attack that has cut off their escape routes. Trying to play the hero, the group's mage fires a water beam, screaming to kill the beast quickly. The wolf dodges with the agility of lightning, shattering the magic spell and lunging straight for the captain's neck. Terrified, the swordsman screams in fear and asks the leader for orders as he retreats like a coward. With a heady leap, the beast lands near the useless swordsman, preparing the final pounce against the unprepared team. Trembling with fear, the ponytail idiot panics and yells to the mage that they're screwed, because two of them showed up. Staring into nothing, the captain smiles maliciously and suggests they use the porters as bait to escape unharmed. Desperate, the head porter grabs the boy's clothes, begging him to work a miracle like last time because the situation is out of control. Without even blinking, our MC pulls one of the willow leaf daggers from his waist and says he'll show them how the dirty work is done. Concentrating his poisonous aura, he throws the blade with absurd speed, activating the single flash. Cutting through the wind, the green knife flies straight between the eyes of the cowardly warrior, who was about to sacrifice the innocents. With a dry impact, the dagger pierces the ponytail swordsman's skull, blowing his head apart in the middle of the forest. The explosion of green energy shoots into the sky, tearing through the trees and leaving the entire team in shock. The sound of the boom echoes through the mountain, startling the birds in the region. Completely lost, the chubby chief stammers, asking what the heck just happened in front of him. Cold and calculating, the boy calmly explains that one of the heroes ran off, leaving the team to perish, and the other coward wanted to use the weak as a human shield. Enveloped in a deadly aura, he states that he hates that kind of trash more than any monster. On the ground, the other warrior screams in pain, clutching his head after the green explosion ripped his ear off. Bleeding and dizzy, his eyes widen as the smoke clears and he sees the real carnage. The gigantic wolf is lying on the ground with its head pierced, blood seeping into the earth, proving the dagger went through the swordsman and the beast in one shot. Trembling like a leaf, the head porter tries to process the scene and asks if the kid took out the abomination in a single blow. Staring at its partner's corpse, the second red wolf seethes with hatred, baring its sharp teeth. Stomping in front of the beast, our MC tells the creature to shut up and calm down. Overflowing with dark energy, the boy warns the monster that he's having a very bad day, and if it takes one more step, it'll become a rug. Turning his face to the earless hunter, the kid asks if he always acts like a rat on missions. He bluntly questions if it's routine for that group to throw the weaker members to the wolves to save their own skins when the tables turn. Desperate, the crazed warrior shouts, trying to justify himself, saying it's the law of the jungle, and that the weak must perish for the strong to survive. With narrowed eyes, the boy absorbs the pathetic excuse and smiles. Agreeing with the guy's rotten logic, our MC declares that then he'll love to get a taste of his own medicine. With a superhuman leap, the kid jumps behind the furious beast, leaving the two face to face. Landing on a high rock, he tells the surviving wolf to attack the remaining warriors. Confused, the earless guy doesn't understand the macabre move. Relaxed on the rock, our MC explains that he already took care of the pack leader, and now it's a fair fight between the beast and the brave warriors. Furious, the idiotic warrior grabs his sword and curses at the kid, asking what kind of crap he thinks he's pulling, thinking he can mess with the Awakens. Losing patience, he turns to the group's mage, telling her to attack as well, swearing the two of them can handle the beast easily. Screaming in rage, the earless warrior raises his sword, promising to cut the kid to pieces right after. In that same second, the wolf attacks and tears the other mage in half, sending blood flying everywhere. Indifferent to the massacre, the boy recalls their agreement and says that since the warrior loves the law of the strongest, he has nothing to complain about. He returns the mockery, asking where all that confidence went from when they were hunting weak weasels. The wolf lets out a blood-curdling roar, focused on its next target. With a cold wave, the kid tells the hunter to fight for his own life. In absolute shock, the coward lowers his sword, realizing he's become beast fodder. Sweating bullets, the warrior glares at the boy and growls, asking if he really thinks he'll get what he wants. Boiling with hatred, the monster scrapes its claws on the ground, ready to tear apart its last target. Trying to be clever, the warrior tells the entire team to split up and run in different directions, betting on luck. As soon as he turns his back, the guy's eyes widen as he feels an absurd pain. In a perfect pounce, the wolf's fangs sink into the hunter's leg, throwing him to the ground like a rag doll. Bleeding on the dirt, the guy clutches his destroyed leg and cries in pain, cursing the kid. Suddenly, his vision goes dark and the monstrous wolf is on top of him, ready for dinner. With nothing left to do, the useless warrior screams for the porters, begging for help in his last second of life. Trying to save himself, the guy grabs the injured mage and throws her in front of the beast's jaws. In total shock, the girl sees certain doom coming with sharp teeth. With a sound of breaking bones, the wolf crushes and tears the swordswoman into 2 pieces, finishing the cowardly job. Drooling blood, the monster steps over the corpses and looks for its next meal. Its red eyes glow, focusing directly on the pair left at the edge of the cliff. Growling, the beast walks slowly, salivating towards the chief and arm MC. Trembling with fear, the old porter stammers a warning that the red devil is coming for them. Sighing with pure boredom, the boy tells the beast that if it had just left, it would have lived to tell the tale. Getting up from the rock, he ignites his toxic aura, annoyed, and states that the monster got too bold, just because it killed some weak trash and forgot who's in charge. With a snap, the kid disappears from the rock, shattering it with the force of his push-off. Flying straight at the beast's face, he pulls back his arm and tells the wolf the games are over, and it's time to perish. Concentrating pure energy in his hands, he launches the double poisonous blood palm straight at the beast's snout. The greenish impact explodes with devastating force, sending the beast flying into the air in a whirlwind of deadly energy. The shockwave rises, tearing through the clouds and shattering all the trees around, confirming the wolf's instant demise. Shocked, the head porter can't believe the monstrous strength of the boy he thought was just another weak novice from the city. Putting the pieces together, the chief remembers the orc slaughter and finally realizes it was the kid who annihilated everything, not the mage that time. Sighing in relief, our MC stretches his body and says it felt great to stretch his legs after being cooped up in the lab making potions for days. Walking over to the old man on the ground, he asks if everything's okay. Trembling, the chief begs for his life, thinking the boy is going to eliminate the only witness. Laughing in his face, our MC scratches his head and asks why on earth he would off the only decent guy in the group. Extending a hand, he tells the old man to get up and checks if he's hurt. Relieved, he confirms the chief is in one piece and takes the opportunity to ask for a small favor. With his eyes glowing red in the midst of the blood, the boy asks in a macabre tone to keep everything that happened on the mountain today a total secret. Understanding the threat, the old man agrees, nodding his head and repeating that he saw absolutely nothing in the forest and has amnesia. Thanking him for the partnership, the kid suggests they get out of there quickly before more unwanted visitors arrive. Staring at the bodies of the fallen warriors, he thinks, cold and calculating, that the other monsters in the forest will clean up the mess by eating the remains. Adjusting his backpack, he admits to himself that he didn't kill the guys directly, but he threw them to the wolves, and doesn't feel a shred of guilt for their passing. To him, it doesn't matter if he thinks like the poison demon or the young Kim Tae-yu. The conclusion is the same human trash that uses the weaker as shields doesn't deserve mercy. Back in Gure, the skyscrapers of the YJ Pharmacy headquarters gleam at night as business booms. In the hallway of a luxurious floor, the camera shows the plaque of a meeting room where things are about to heat up. With a violent punch on the table, revolt explodes in the meeting room, where one of the bosses shouts indignantly that sales have dropped by half. On the screen, the reason for the loss is plastered on the newspaper, revealing the absolute success of the anti-mosquito antidote invented by Kim Tae-ju. Mad with rage, the red-jacketed executive bellows that they should have crushed that little corner shop a long time ago. Without losing his composure, the bearded man in a suit retorts, reminding them that they control 70% of the Gorai market, and only Bex escapes their monopoly. Furious, the guy in the jacket grumbles that the darn autonomous committee protects the old man from the pharmacy, just because he supports a bunch of useless orphans. In a mocking tone, the Hothed calls the bearded man clueless for not realizing the gravity of the situation. To end the shouting, the CEO of YJ Pharmacy claps his hands, getting their attention and telling everyone to calm down. With a cynical smile, the platinum-haired man suggests they stop beating around the bush and just admit that his company failed miserably to copy the formula. With no way out, The other two bosses lower their heads and admit that their labs also couldn't recreate the magic remedy. Trying to maintain his composure, the bearded man guarantees that cracking the recipe is just a matter of time. Banging the table again, the Hothed yells that the problem is now, and that everyone will go bankrupt if they just sit around and wait. Faced with desperation, the platinum-haired man agrees that the committee is a pain in the neck, but declares they'll solve this the usual mob-style way. Excited by the idea, the red-jacketed guy cracks a wicked smile and asks if the CEO has finished his investigation into the inventor. Quickly, the platinum-haired man presses a button on the table and tells his colleagues to look at the big screen. Soon our MC's complete file appears, revealing he is 29 years old and the eldest son of General Kim of Paju. Shocked by the information, the bearded man leans back and questions if targeting the son of a military master wouldn't be asking for trouble. With a smirk, the platinum-haired man waves his hands and says that's just the tip of the iceberg and the real story is much better. On the screen, the family's dirty laundry appears, showing that the boy was born without mana, was kicked out of his home, and his new Japanese stepmother wants him gone. At the irony of it all, the red-jacketed guy bursts out laughing, realizing the kid has no one to defend him. Crossing his fingers, the CEO reveals the plan to approach our MC first and offer a fortune to steal the distribution rights. With a sadistic look, he warns that if the boy refuses the $1 million proposal, the guild will simply do the usual dirty work and erase the kid. Far from the city, the scene cuts to the imposing Jirisan Monster Defense military base, bathed in sunlight. At the command room door, someone knocks lightly, and the general's voice says to enter. Before his boss, a lieutenant salutes and confirms he got the secret information directly from the Autonomous Committee. Quickly, the soldier hands over a black folder full of confidential documents about the antidote. Focused on the report, Commander O discovers that the creator of the cure is the rejected son of General Kim, and that he was discharged from the army. Thoughtfully, the veteran remembers that the Empire forbade military interference in Guri, but using the father's connection with his ex-soldier son could be the perfect loophole. Tapping his fingers on the table, the commander plans to use the potions to start a massive hunt before the next monster horde attacks. With a confident smile, the military master concludes that the family would never completely cut ties, and that getting the remedy will be a piece of cake. Immediately, he orders his subordinates to contact the Paju lands, demanding to speak directly with our boy's father. Hundreds of kilometers away, the phone is slammed down inside the luxurious office of the protagonist's father. Visibly annoyed by the news, the general grumbles that even a useless worm can struggle before it perishes. Laughing at the situation, the Japanese stepmother fans herself and asks how her 6 stepson learned to make magic potions. Feigning concern, the shrew picks up her phone and says she'll buy tickets to Gori, as the kid might get scammed for having too much money. Tired of his wife's manipulations, the father turns his head and simply tells her to leave the boy alone once and for all. Confused by the response, the Viper asks why, and her husband reminds her that they already erased the kid from the family register. With a fake smile, the woman insists that papers don't erase blood ties and that they have a moral duty to help the poor thing. Walking to the desk, she provokes her husband, who loses his patience and tells her to stop the act, reminding her of the assassination attempt. Gripping the arm of the chair, the shrew coldly guarantees that there's no evidence left against them, since the entire platoon became monster food. Changing tactics, the woman finally snaps and screams, telling the general to call his son and close the deal with the military in exchange for a promotion. Shamelessly, the stepmother throws it in his face that her father's Japanese empire won't support their failing lands forever and demands he think about the future of their legitimate children. Completely cornered, the general clenches his hands tightly, trying to contain the rage of his own powerlessness. Fed up, he tells his wife to go there herself and beg for the potion. Staring at the woman with disgust, the father makes it clear that he won't lift a finger to talk to the reject. Faced with the firm refusal, the Viper grinds her teeth and lets out a muffled scream of pure hatred. Not taking no for an answer, the stepmother declares she'll do things her own way if her husband wants to be proud. With a thunderous slam, the office door is shut, marking the villain's furious exit. Alone in the room, the general relaxes his heavy shoulders and leans back in his leather chair. Staring at the ceiling, the trash father thinks aloud, confessing he was absolutely sure the boy had already perished in the woods. With a relieved sigh, the coward says he's happy to see his son enjoying the little life he has left. Far away, the bustling free city of Guri is teeming with commerce, with hunters spending fortunes on the streets. Right in the center, the glass facade of the luxurious Flame Boutique catches the attention of the region's wealthy. Inside, various noble clothes and elegant armors hang on designer racks. In front of a giant mirror, our MC finally tries on the much-coveted overcoat made from monster hide. Impressed by the look, the red-haired mage working there breaks into a huge smile and compliments him, saying the piece fits like a glove. Feeling the fabric, the boy thanks her and acknowledges that the quality of the magical materials is truly on another level. Satisfied, he comments that the clothing is incredibly light, has temperature control, and the gray color is perfect for not drawing attention in the forest. Opening the side of the coat, he checks the countless secret pockets and is amazed by the perfect space to store his poisons. Striking up a conversation, the redhead says she had the pockets added on purpose, as she noticed he uses many hidden weapons. Uncomfortable with the generosity, the kid tries to refuse the extremely expensive item, but the saleswoman stops him, stating the coat is just the fair price for her life. Worried, our MC remembers the previous commotion and says that accepting the gift took the coat from a rich customer and caused trouble for the store. To reassure the boy, the mage laughs and explains that she already tracked down an identical item and had it delivered directly to the blonde socialite's house. Breathing easier, our boy realizes the redhead took care of everything herself without asking for anything in return. Determined to repay her kindness, he points to an entire section of the store and tells her to wrap up all the children's coats on the shelf. Flashing a black card with a confident smile, he says he'll donate everything to the orphanage and also hit her sales target for the entire month. Totally moved by the hero's gesture, the saleswoman bows her head in thanks and rushes to the stockroom to wrap up the fortune. Behind the girl's back, he concludes that she is a very rare hunter with a truly good heart who deserves respect. Just then, the boutique's doorbell rings, announcing the arrival of new customers. In a flash, the kid turns and comes face to face with the platinum-haired CEO of YJ Pharmacy, who enters, saying he's been looking for the boy everywhere. The heavy steps of expensive shoes echo on the wooden floor, showing the guy isn't there to play games. Directly, the mob boss extends a luxury business card and formally introduces himself with a plastic smile on his face. Cold as ice, our MC just stares at the suited man's hand without moving a single muscle to take the card. To cover his embarrassment, the businessman retracts the card with a little chuckle, pretending to understand the distrust. Having no patience for games, the boy cuts through the act, demanding to know what the trash wants and how he found his location. Adjusting his tie, the platinum-haired man states that the guild knows absolutely everything in Gurai and promises not to beat around the bush. Focused on the blackmail, the CEO changes his tone and asks for a little favor, demanding the boy provide the antidote formula to them as well. With a mocking smile on his face, the kid crosses his arms and bluntly asks if that's a request for a favor or a cheap threat. With a stern face, the mobster replies that for now, it's just a favor, but the protagonist's answer is a short and firm, no. Intimidated, the boy turns his back while the businessman swears to pay triple the price and cover the fines, but our MC refuses, saying he won't throw his honor in the trash. Utterly desperate, the platinum-haired man offers 5 billion for the entire recipe, but the kid throws the bait back, asking if he would sell a gold mine for pocket change. Humiliated, the pharmacy boss grinds his teeth, feeling the anger rise to his head. Adjusting his posture, the suited man threatens that the boy's life in the city will become a living hell, but the kid just waves goodbye and tells him not to worry. Soon after, the red-haired mage approaches, curious about the visit, and the boy jokes, calling the millionaire mobster a simple street vendor. Outside, the suited man pulls out his phone, foaming with rage, and swears the stubborn brat will regret his choice. In a psychopathic tone, he answers the call and tells his goons to start the dirty work in the same cowardly way as always. Far away, the sun sets on a construction site on the outskirts of the city, where our MC's new mansion is being built. With a bang, papers and blueprints are slammed on the table, confirming the steady progress of the construction. Stepping onto the site with several fancy bags, the kid greets the construction chief, who asks in surprise what he's brought this time. Smiling, the boy explains that he bought expensive clothes for the workers' children as a way of thanking them for all their hard work. With tears in his eyes, the construction master hugs the gift and calls our MC a saint, promising to work even harder. Deeply moved, the old builder cries with gratitude, holding the new clothes tightly. Relieved to have chosen the right gift, the kid cracks a sincere smile and says he's happy with the reaction. Staring at the giant steel structure, he praises the accelerated pace of the work and thanks the team for their dedication. Remembering a previous conversation, the construction master asks if the boy has finally made a decision about the place's future. In a very serious tone, the protagonist confirms that the visit from the pharmacy mafia gave him exactly the certainty he needed to act. Startled by the news, the builder's eyes widen as he asks if the so-called businessman tried to hurt the boy in any way. Cool as a cucumber, the kid stretches his body and confesses that he was only threatened. But it served as a reminder of how the weak are crushed in this world. Determined to turn the tables, he makes his decision and announces that he will found his own pharmaceutical corporation, right there to head with the elite. Confidently, he asks the chief to take care of everything with the construction, as he needs to take an important and lengthy trip. Turning his back to the building, the boy explains that before starting the company, He needs to isolate himself to create an unprecedented and absurd potion. In the boy's mind, the story reveals the absolute technique of poisonous chaos, created by the legendary master Tang. This divine martial art combines the 5 elements of nature, mixing water, fire, earth, wood, and metal into a pure and deadly energy. Through a mental pyramid, he reviews the 10 levels of power, knowing he needs to reach the 4th stage as quickly as possible. At the peak of this strength, the secret technique of the Rain of Infinite Blades can only be conjured by someone who reaches the final stage, awakening the true toxic spirit. Exactly as Old Man Tang did in the past, this bizarre power is capable of melting gods and demons until not even dust remains. In the midst of Jurisan Mountain, the spawning zone of demonic beasts exudes pure danger. Suddenly, a pillar of green energy explodes violently, tearing through the forest and breaking the region's silence. In the midst of combat, a giant mutant beast attacks with fury, but the boy nimbly dodges the fatal pounce. Cold and calculating, he focuses on the monster's movement, waiting for the perfect opening to counterattack. In the blink of an eye, the poisoned dagger pierces the beast's chest, spraying toxic energy everywhere. With a heavy thud, the leopard cat collapses and our MC retrieves his blade, unscathed. Wiping his forehead, he takes a deep breath and grumbles that the creature was the size of a real tiger. Analyzing the corpse, he notes that the beast's hide was so tough that normal blows barely left scratches. Frustrated with his own performance, the kid clenches his fists and admits that being only at the 3rd stage is still too humiliating. To speed up his brutal training, he rips out the beast's poison gland and smiles upon seeing the absurd size of the core. Straight to the point, he absorbs the raw toxin, knowing that with the legendary master's experience, evolution is pure math. Leaving the carcass behind, our MC guarantees that his power will explode as long as he continues to devour new poisons. At that moment, his eyes glow an intense green, showing that his once fragile body has finally adapted to magic. Fully focused, he reveals that the true objective of this trip is to hunt the extremely rare poisonous water deer to make the great leap. Suddenly, he slaps his own forehead and runs back into the woods, remembering he needs to collect the precious daggers he threw. With brute force, he pulls the small knife stuck in the beast's bone and cleans the blood on the grass. Camouflaged in the forest, the famous water deer appears, grazing peacefully, unaware of the danger. This bizarre creature has 2 strange humps on its back that look like sacks filled with toxic liquid. Without any pity, the boy moves like a shadow, closing the distance in a single deadly leap. From the lethal cut, the creature falls instantly, causing the humps to burst with absurd pressure. Immediately, a cloud of extremely poisonous purple spores spreads through the air, contaminating everything around. The entire clearing turns into a minefield, where even the leaves on the trees begin to melt. Protected by his own aura, the kid touches a deadly bubble and questions if this is the substance capable of melting even elite gas masks. Greedily, he begins to pull all that purple smoke into his body, refusing to waste such a rich material. A hurricane of pure toxicity envelops the protagonist, sucking up the lethal mist like a magical vacuum cleaner. Planting his feet firmly on the ground, he performs the hand seals of the spiritual art to control the chemical storm. With clenched teeth and an aggressive expression, he commands his own brain to focus to the max to avoid being poisoned. In the center of his chest, a sphere of green energy begins to condense, merging the deer's strength with his own mana. In an explosive move, he pushes the ball of power directly into his own heart, forcing absolute absorption. Overflowing with a blinding emerald light, he begins the final process, transforming the poison into raw strength in his veins. In a lotus position, the warrior's silhouette floats as the energies fight for dominance within the core. Slowly, the boy opens his glowing eyes and wonders how many hours he spent meditating to clear all the air in the forest. Exhausted by the insane amount of magic, he calms his aura and smiles, knowing that now, creating a potion against this poison will be child's play. Comparing the current Earth with the old martial world, our MC notes that the variety of modern toxins is the perfect advantage for scaling his power. The image of a dark executioner cuts through his mind, serving as a violent reminder of the time when he was helpless trash. Through the memory of the beatings and humiliations from his own family, his anger boils, promising that no one will ever walk all over him again. Shaping the energy with perfection, the green aura flows through his hands like calm water. With a snap, the magic core finally stabilizes, and the boy celebrates his long-awaited evolution to the 4th stage of the technique. Collapsing to the ground from sheer exhaustion, he wipes his face and admits the process took much longer than planned. Kicking up dust, he adjusts his fancy coat as the last rays of sun illuminate the destruction around him. Observing the reddish horizon, the hero takes positive stock of his trip and confirms that he now knows the recipe for the new $1 million remedy by heart. Adjusting the backpack, our MC takes the first step on the trail and decides it's time to return to civilization. Walking towards the city, he confesses a hint of anxiety, fearing what the pharmacy mafia might have done during his absence. The story advances to the dead of night and shows the dark facade of Old Man Bike's drugstore in Guri. A mysterious hand reaches for the doorknob of the empty shop, suggesting that trouble has finally arrived. Back at the pharmacy with a giant backpack, our boy asks if Old Man Bake is okay. Facing the completely empty shelves, he cheerfully comments that business must be booming. Surprised by the visit, the old owner confesses he was super worried, as our MC had been gone for almost half a month. Relieved by his return, the chief daughter welcomes the kid on the spot. After apologizing for turning off his phone to train, the protagonist quickly notices the heavy atmosphere and asks what went wrong. In a disheartened tone, the pharmacist explains that the big corporations cut off their supply of all other medicines. Making matters worse, the old man reveals that the autonomous committee demanded the antidote's ingredient list, claiming to be investigating side effects. Immediately it clicks, and our hero deduces this is the work of the platinum-haired suit from YJ Pharmacy. Without beating around the bush, the old man says this is the dirty way the villain usually operates, using his influence on the committee. Focused on the consequences, the kid questions what the worst-case scenario is and figures they could be banned from selling the antidote. Annoyed with the situation, the boy realizes that even the Empire's inspectors are turning a blind eye to this blatant corruption. With his eyes glowing with energy, our MC mutters that the actions of human trash always follow the same cowardly pattern. Determined not to back down, he informs the old man that they will strike first and show them what a real threat is. Confused by the boy's audacity, the shop owner's eyes widen, not understanding the suicidal plan. With a calculating smile, the kid says to close the drugstore doors, claiming that if the medicine is harmful, then they won't sell another drop. Far from the shop, the scene cuts to the orphanage run by the old man during a quiet night. In the yard, a giant piece of meat roasts over a fire while the kids have a party. Around the table, the children eat until they're stuffed, enjoying a luxurious feast. Not missing the chance, our hero takes a bite of the meat to taste it. Suddenly, his eyes light up in pure shock, feeling the absurd taste melt in his mouth. Fascinated by the quality, he shouts with joy, realizing the poisonous deer meat is a true culinary masterpiece. In the boy's memories, the story tells that this specific creature has the most delicious meat in the entire empire. However, since no one could remove the lethal toxin, the delicacy became an exclusive monopoly of the imperial family. Very proud of his own genius, the kid praises himself for focusing on the deer's antidote right away. Initially, his idea was just to create a cure to save civilians during the feared monster invasions. Seeing the children's joy, the boy considers starting to sell purified meat on the market as well. Focused on the future, he thinks about supplying the delicacy to the emperor and maybe getting an audience with the great sword master. Cuffing to get his attention, the old pharmacy owner breaks the boy's daydream. Sincerely grateful, the old man thanks him for the luxurious meal the kid brought for the orphans. With his eyes glued to the small bottle, the pharmacist admits he's impressed by our MC's ability to cure such a deadly poison. Worried about the strike, the old man questions if it's really safe to keep the shop closed without giving any explanation to the public. Without letting go of his piece of meat, the boy just asks the old man to trust the plan and wait for the chaos to unfold. With a malicious smile, the kid throws out the bait, asking who will really be in trouble if the antidote disappears from the shelves. The next day, the front of the drugstore is crowded with angry hunters, facing the lowered iron shutters. At the top of his lungs, an armored mercenary bellows indignantly that it's been 5 days since they've been able to buy potions to work. In the crowd, rumors fly about the corrupt pressure from the autonomous committee to steal the formula. Annoyed, an adventurer defends Old Man back, guaranteeing he's drunk all his remedies and never had any side effects. Suddenly, an authoritative shout cuts through the confusion, getting the attention of all the troublemakers. With his hand on his sword hilt, a man in a black overcoat approaches, telling the crowd to shut up. Revealing his face, Master Li Zhong, Hack coldly warns that he won't tolerate a mess on his commercial street. In whispers, the hunters find the militia captain's presence strange, suspecting his involvement with the mafia. Maintaining his official posture, the Lord decrees that the sales ban was a direct order from the committee until the analysis is complete. Seething with anger, the armored warrior refutes the lie, asking how they are supposed to hunt in the forest without protection. Supported by the crowd, the mercenary throws it in the master's face that it's easy to ban the remedy when you're strong enough to ignore the poison. Challenged in public, the Lord gives a sadistic smile, his eyes shining with pure danger. With his hand on his sword blade, the suited master asks, since when human trash has permission to bark at him. Ignoring the threat, the Lord tells everyone to disappear, grumbling that he's only putting up with this because of the darn voting rule. Even though he's terrified, the armored mercenary refuses to budge from the front of the shop. Overcome by fury, the master focuses on the rebel and asks if his order sounded like some kind of joke. Terrified by the murderous intent, the adventurer stammers an apology and runs down the street. With a bored sigh, the Lord sheathes his weapon and grumbles about how annoying it is to deal with rebellious peasants. In his mind, his real hatred is directed at the platinum-haired man from YJ Pharmacy, vowing to make him pay dearly for being manipulated into doing this dirty work. Comfortably seated in the leather seat of his luxury car, the Lord's phone rings, and he answers with irony. On the other end of the line, the platinum-haired CEO lays it on thick, praising the master's efficiency in silencing the street dogs. Sitting in the dark, the mobster scoffs, reminding him that even though he's a powerful lord, he still has to follow the committee's majority rule. Full of swagger, the platinum-haired man announces that the next phase of the plan has already begun and that everything will be resolved soon. Confident of victory, he promises a hefty reward, betting that the boycott won't last a week. Cutting to the military base, Commander Oh-jin Hang waits anxiously in his luxurious office. Facing our protagonist, the general asks in surprise if the multi-million-dollar proposal is really serious. Straight to the point, the kid smiles and vows to supply 1 million potions to the army, totaling a whopping 50 billion won. Completely shocked by the numbers, the bearded commander falls silent, processing the information. Through the general's shining eyes, greed overflows as he thinks about the absurd amount of money. Sweating bullets, the boy's assistant fears the military man thinks the price of the potions is too high. Quite the contrary, the bearded man breaks into a dark smile, showing he is extremely satisfied with the move. Logically, the general realizes the price charged is incredibly low and wonders if the boy is even making a profit. Not missing the opportunity, the commander orders his subordinate to release the funds from the military reserve immediately. Between sips of tea, our MC accepts the down payment but adds that the negotiation has a bonus item. Placing a fancy dish on the table, the boy announces that he's starting his own company and brought a sample of his new invention. Without warning, he removes the silver lid, revealing a perfectly roasted and fragrant piece of meat. With an inviting smile, the kid offers the delicacy, asking the general to take the first bite. Confused by the scene, the military man stammers, not understanding what food has to do with the medicine business. Suspicious of the offer, the bearded man questions the menu, and our MC affirms that it's a special dish just for him. Surprised by the texture, the general praises the tender flavor, admitting he'd been avoiding barbecue for health reasons. Calmly, the boy suggests that the general present the meat to the emperor, revealing that it is the famous delicacy of the poisonous deer. Desperate at the revelation, the aide's eyes widen, remembering that this creature's meat is the rarest and most lethal meal in the entire world. With the cup in his hand, our MC listens as the general praises his youth and genius. In a very serious tone, the burly military man throws out the bait and invites the boy to re-enlist in the army. In the general's memories, the Jurison defense base was always seen as a useless backwater. When he took command, the military man knew that any mistake there would cost him his head. However, with the arrival of the new potion, the bearded man finally sees a golden opportunity to turn the tables. In the middle of a loud laugh, the commander comments, impressed, on the creation of the water deer antidote. Suddenly, the aide enters the room, salutes, and informs him that the $1 million deposit has been made. With the newspaper in hand, the soldier confirms that the mess with the Pharmaceutical Association was the best possible advertisement. Satisfied with the news, the general tells his right-hand man to keep an eye on our boy and help him with whatever he needs. With a victorious smile, the big guy admits that the kid exceeded all the base's expectations. Outside the office, our MC sighs in relief for finally closing a deal with someone powerful. Inside, the aide calls his chief, his eyes shining with pure ambition. With his fists clenched, the military man tastes success knocking at his door. 990. In a euphoric embrace, the two celebrate the real chance of rising through the ranks to the imperial court. Through the base's corridors, the shout of "Long live Kim Tae-jo" echoes loudly, along with a scandalous laugh. Under the daylight, the new headquarters of the MC's company is already taking shape on the outskirts of Gore. Through the modern lobby, the construction of the pharmaceutical company is advancing at an impressive speed. Sitting in the temporary room, Old Man Bake praises the boy's hard and fast work. With the newspaper open, the kid breaks into a huge grin, seeing the news of his own antidote plastered on the front page. As expected, the leak of the partnership with the military sent the potion's popularity soaring. Straight to the point, our little hero announces that the 25 billion from the advance payment has already hit the account. Nervous with the paperwork, the old man cries with joy, remembering how the banks humiliated him in the past. Gently, the kid tells his partner to use the leftover money to take care of the children at the orphanage. Focused on the future, he confesses that managing a giant corporation alone is crazy, and he needs help. Face to face, the boy makes the official proposal for them to become full partners in the business. Caught off guard, the pharmacist refuses on the spot, saying he only knows how to make medicine and understands nothing about corporate sales. Not caring about the excuse, the kid retorts, reminding him that he also only knows about potions and nothing else. Defeated by the facts, the old man accepts the partnership, but demands that 90% of the profits go to the boy. Dry and direct, our MC lets out a resounding no, startling his partner. With a raised hand, he decrees that the split will be 7-3, or the company simply won't exist. Moved, the old man accepts the generous offer but says he knows someone much more qualified for the administration. Instantly, the boy remembers the elegant woman named Baekseyo, Yan he met at the shelter before. Full of pride, the father guarantees that his adopted daughter is the brightest mind among the orphans he raised. With a confident smile, the kid approves the recommendation, saying that talent is always welcome on the team. With a firm handshake, the $1 million partnership is successfully sealed. Excited about the paperwork, our MC asks them to register the company by combining the syllables of their names. Suddenly, the old man mentions he called an old acquaintance with powers to act as the boy's personal security. Confused by the sudden overprotection, our MC asks the reason for this luxury escort. Seriously, the old man reminds him that the mobster from YJ Pharmacy usually resorts to violence, and they need to counter with brute force. Finding the concern amusing, our MC assures him he can handle himself and tells him to put the security at the orphanage. Suspicious, the pharmacist insists, questioning what on earth the boy trusts so much to dismiss protection. Checking our MC's clean face, the old man remembers he doesn't have the awakened mark and is just an ordinary ex-soldier. For a brief moment, our boy's eye glows with a sinister green aura. In a calm but intimidating tone, he asks for a vote of confidence, leaving the old man sweating bullets. Pulling on his chick fur overcoat, the kid prepares for his next move. Before leaving through the door, the boy asks his partner to call for the promised escort immediately. Putting on his dark gloves, he says he needs to prove his own strength once and for all. With a boss's posture, he decrees that he's taking the security on a tough hunt right now. Far from the metropolis, the dense forest on the Jirisan border awaits the team's arrival. On the dirt trail, the boy walks side by side with the elite mercenary hired by the old man. Dumbfounded, the security guard recognizes our MC's coat and immediately deduces the piece costs more than 4 billion. Nervous about the absurd wealth, the warrior tries to be polite and calls the kid director. In a formal posture, the grayed-haired young man introduces himself as Baek Chang-hoon, an Awakens swordsman of user rank. No nonsense, our MC tells the guy to relax and just call him older brother, to cut the tension. After the order, the security guard tells the boy to stay well behind him when the monsters finally appear. Faced with the chief's silence, the warrior apologizes, thinking he's offended the suit's pride. With a serene smile, the kid says he's more than used to people doubting his strength. Armed for the fight, our MC warns that they need to clear the area before continuing their small talk. Confused, the swordsman looks around, not understanding where the sudden danger is coming from. From the shadows of the bushes, dozens of red eyes glow, thirsty for fresh meat. In a panic, the guard recognizes the terrible storm weasels, ready for a deadly pounce. With wild roars, the entire pack leaps from the trees, aiming for the target's necks. Completely surrounded, death seems certain for the swordsman, who draws his blade in pure desperation. Sweating bullets, the young man curses his luck upon seeing the absurd number of monsters descending upon them. Unlike the security guard, our boy simply flexes his knees, focused on retaliation. Between the fingers of his glove, he fits dozens of nails forged from pure steel, ready for the massacre. From the secret pockets of his overcoat, he prepares the absolute martial art to annihilate the pack. Concentrating the lethal energy, his pupils glow with the fury and weight of the ancient poison demon. In an absurdly fast motion, he fires the rain of hidden blades, tearing through the wind. At the shout of the technique's activation, a gigantic explosion of purple energy engulfs the entire clearing. Completely in shock, the security guard lowers his sword and his eyes widen at the apocalyptic power. In mid-air, the mutant beasts are mercilessly pierced, turned into sieves before they even touch the ground. Even though they are lethal monsters, the force of the impact shatters the green horde as if they were harmless flies. With a look of absolute shock, the young man stammers in disbelief that the threat was literally erased from existence in a second. Dusting off his hands, the kid adjusts his expensive coat and acts as if it were just a light warm-up. Faced with the carnage, the boy sighs in frustration, immediately complaining about the bad luck of running into a pack of storm weasels. With no time for fuss, he explains that he couldn't use his main daggers because collecting them all afterward would be too much work. With his hands in his pockets, he looks at the shocked group and says that old man Bake would kill him if anyone got hurt. Focused on efficiency, our MC explains that he solved the problem by firing a shower of disposable hidden weapons from the Tang clan. In the midst of the destruction, the security guard swallows hard and calculates the absurd loss of those 200 weapons lost in the woods. Annoyed with the waste, the kid laments not having the 7th level of the spiritual art to make the blades fly back to his hand. Completely stunned, the swordsman questions if the boy is a disguised master who hides the magical tattoos on his face. Straight and to the point, the protagonist says he's not an Awakens and tells everyone to focus, because he's taking the lead. Desperate, the warrior tries to protest, reminding him that his mission was precisely to protect the kid. Cold and calculating, he ignores the whining, turns his back, and continues walking, leaving the confused guard behind. Through the dense forest, the team advances in silence, searching for the main target. Suddenly, the boy raises his hand and tells everyone to freeze in place. In the bushes, the famous poisonous water deer chews on some leaves with a bored expression. Startled by the beast, the guard draws his weapon and whispers, asking what the plan of attack is. Through the weapon's sight, he warns that the monster has noticed their presence, but is overconfident in its own toxic defense. Without delay, the boy orders the entire team to drink the antidote now to begin the hunt. Confused by the order, the group's eyes widen, and they point to their own chests in disbelief. With the bottle in hand, the swordsman hesitates, remembering the liquid is still in the testing phase. In an internal conflict, he assesses the situation and concludes that the boy has shown more than enough strength not to be a charlatan. To prove his worth, the warrior chugs the bottle of antidote in one go. With his sword drawn, he takes the lead and asks for covering fire in case the monster tries to flee. Focused on the target, the swordsman grips the hilt of his weapon and prepares his combat stance. In a violent impulse, the young man charges straight at the unsuspecting deer. Faced with danger, the monster lets out a bizarre screech and bares its teeth. The beast quickly releases a toxic cloud, trying to suffocate the hunters in the woods. Through the smoke, the warrior leaps high, ready to bring his blade down. In a clean and perfect strike, the swordsman slices the poisonous deer right down the middle. With a dull thud, the beast's carcass falls dead on the grass. Immediately, the group's shooter screams in panic, warning that the carcass is about to explode. Before any reaction, the poison sacs on the creature's back burst, releasing lethal spores everywhere. Immersed in the toxic mist, the hunters await their end but realize the deadly bubbles cause no harm. Satisfied with the result, the protagonist smirks, confirming the effectiveness of his own invention. Right in the center of the explosion, the swordsman breathes normally and notices his body is still intact and full of strength. With a loud laugh, the young man celebrates the miracle and informs the team that the remedy worked perfectly. Relieved, our boy closes his eyes and gives thanks for the absolute success of the practical test. Full of swagger, the kid explains that with the right antidote in your blood, that terrible monster becomes easy prey. Totally ashamed, the warrior bows his head and apologizes profusely for having doubted the potion. Paying no mind to the flattery, our MC announces that the hunt has just begun and orders the team to advance even deeper into the forest. For the sake of profit, he reminds the crew to slice and save all the creature's meat, warning that this species will be extinct once the cure is released. Very far away, the story cuts to the gigantic capital of the Salmon Empire, full of modern buildings. At the luxurious headquarters of the Marina Group, the corporate atmosphere is buzzing with work. On the strategic planning floor, dozens of suits type frantically on their computers. Suddenly, a bald employee approaches the desk and calls for Section Chief Bake. In her chair, the intelligent Bake Soyan addresses her superior with impeccable posture. Straight to the point, the chubby manager asks if she is the adopted daughter of the old orphanage owner from Guri. Maintaining her politeness, the young woman confirms her origin but questions the reason for the sudden question. With a shark-like smile, the chief orders the girl to drop absolutely all her current projects immediately. Confused by the bizarre order, her eyes widen in disbelief. Without mincing words, the manager demands she pack her bags for Guri and solve a little personal problem for the company. Given the suspicious tone, the young woman crosses her arms and demands a clear explanation for this madness. With a slap on the table, he throws down the newspaper, showing the article about the new company Tang Bio and the $1 million contract with the military. Immediately, it clicks, and the girl understands that the matter is the new deer antidote. Venomously, the chief accuses her of playing dumb, since the whole world knows her father's pharmacy has become a branch of this new corporation. In a dirty order, the manager tells her to stick to her father and steal the secret formula for the potion for their company. From the tone of the conversation, the young woman realizes the chief wants to use her as a spy to betray her own family in exchange for power. Right in the middle of the tension, her cell phone vibrates on the desk, showing Old Man Beck's number. With the perfect excuse, she asks for a moment to answer while the manager tells her to be quick and accept the mission. With the phone to her ear, the woman listens attentively to her father's proposal on the other end of the line. Impatiently, the bald chief crosses his arms, awaiting the employee's submission. After ending the call, the intelligent Bake lets out a smirk and thanks him for the opportunity. Focused on greed, the manager asks if she has made the decision to become a spy. Adjusting her posture, the woman confirms with her head held high that she will move to Gurai as soon as possible. Excited by the answer, the chief raises his hand to explain the details of the dirty plan. In a swift move, the girl pulls out her company ID and forcefully sticks it right into the sleazy manager's chest. With a huge smile on her face, she tells the bald guy to go to hell and shouts that she's quitting this dump. Furious at the humiliation, the chief curses at the ex-employee as she turns her back and marches to freedom. Yelling in the middle of the office, the human garbage questions who the orphan thinks she is to refuse to betray her own family. Far from the capital, night falls peacefully over the protagonist's company building. In the building's warehouse, the team loads dozens of boxes filled with the rare deer meat. Satisfied with the hunt, our hero praises the hard work of all the mercenaries. In response to the praise, the swordsman also gives thanks, and the kid takes the opportunity to dismiss the young man, telling him to rest at the orphanage. Stubbornly, the warrior tries to refuse the day off, claiming that Old Man Bike ordered him to act as the chief personal security. Hitting a nerve, our MC asks if the young man still thinks he needs protection after pulverizing an entire horde by himself. Out of arguments, the swordsman accepts the order, and the boy tells the entire team to go home and sleep. Facing the dark street, the kid mutters that sending the escort to the shelter is the best move in a world infested with crazies. Leaving the warehouse, the boy breathes in the night air, justifying that in a crazy place like Guri, having trustworthy people is worth gold. Through the glass door, the team walks away together under the starry sky, proving the boy knew how to choose his allies. Back in the corridors of the commercial building, he plans to set up a decent laboratory as soon as the company's structure is ready. With a nostalgic sigh, the kid admits that at first, he just wanted to make a little money to live in peace. The elevator arrives, and the metal door reflects the hero's face, who smiles and confesses that earning a fortune isn't all that bad. Through the hallway window, the moon illuminates the new luxury penthouse he bought with the advance money. With his hand on the doorknob, he confesses that finally having his own home brings a strange but good feeling. Tossing his coat on the armchair, the protagonist remembers when he was a piece of trash rejected by his own magic, always getting beaten up in Paju. In a painful flashback, the stepmother orders her goons to crush the kid at the edge of the cliff without mercy. But the fatal fall connected his soul with that of the legendary poison demon Tang, changing the whole game. Sitting at the kitchen table, he reflects on the explosive success of the antidote and the money that filled his pockets in the blink of an eye. Throwing his body onto the huge bed, the boy stretches his legs and accepts that Guri will be the starting point of his empire. Through the cracks in the window, the city lights shine, and he vows that he now has what it takes to step on anyone. Far from the peace of the penthouse, a dark alley smells of trouble, and cigarette smoke rises into the night. In front of his goons, the famous mob boss Masang Sik confirms the mission to take care of the kid from the new company. With a rotten smile, the mobster scoffs at the newbie's courage in buying a luxurious building, thinking he owns the city. Boiling with envy, the villain mentions the rumors about the billions the antidote generated and vows to get his own piece of that fortune. Excited about the money, the goons rub their hands, but the boss tells everyone to shut up and focus on the plan. Annoyed, the suited man grumbles that the job would be easier if the jerk from YJ Pharmacy didn't insist on kidnapping the boy alive to steal the formula. With heavy steps, the gang marches towards our MC's luxury building. With flashlights pointed, the invasion happens quickly, cutting through the penthouse's security fence. Through the mansion's corridors, the goons move like shadows, carrying iron bars. At the bedroom door, the mobster pulls out a suspicious syringe and instructs his men to jab the target the second they enter. In a macabre whisper, he warns that the bizarre liquid will make the boy's eyes roll back, ensuring a silent ride to the car. With a firm hand on the doorknob, the door opens slowly, and the leader enters, ready to pounce. Focused on the empty bed, the mobster's sweaty bald head shines in the darkness, revealing the target is gone. With a dry snap, the improvised weapon falls from the villain's hand as he realizes his own stupidity. At his wit's end, the goon pushes open the bathroom door, holding a thick steel bar. Immediately, a hand as cold as ice grabs the villain's wrist, stopping the fatal injection. Revealing his face in the shadows, the protagonist confesses he was almost about to take the jab, just to see the effect, but changed his mind at the last minute. Pale with terror, the mobster stammers, feeling his own arm freeze in a grip that feels like steel tongs. With a brutal shove, the goon stumbles back, perplexed by the kid's immense strength. From the darkness of the hallway, our MC's eyes glow with pure hatred, looking at the invaders like they're cockroaches. Utterly terrified, the two villains take a step back, asking what the heck the boy did. In an amused tone, the kid twirls the syringe in his fingers and pretends he forgot to mention that he hates getting shots. Furious at the mockery, the mob boss swallows his fear and orders the gang to advance on the unarmed target. In the same instant, the boy sarcastically questions if just swallowing the poison would have the same effect. Laughing at the audacity, the thug scoffs, saying the kid has lost his mind if he plans to drink his own sentence. To the goon's horror, the hero uncaps the lethal syringe. Without a second thought, our MC squirts the yellowish liquid directly onto his tongue, as if it were water. Shocked to his core, the villain's eyes widen as the drops fall, staining the floor with emptiness. In an instant, the boy's dark and toxic aura explodes, dominating the entire room. With his eyes fully illuminated by the new poison, the kid smiles maliciously and asks if the mob has any more of that. He quickly understands that the rumors about the poor neighborhoods controlling the heavy drugs in Guri weren't made up and celebrates the discovery of his new meal. Deep in his mind, the memories of the poison demon surface, proving that the master of the ancient martial world would devour even toxins to evolve. Explaining the dirty trick, the boy says he used his poison core and sucked the toxins from the entire gang's blood. Laughing at their crying, he points to the goons who are sweating bullets and swears the feeling is just like being born again. Surrounded by purple energy, he approaches the leader and bluntly asks which coward paid for this shoddy job. Sweating buckets, the mobster hesitates, mumbling that he'd be offed if he snitched on the corporation's bosses. Agreeing with the excuse, the hero prepares his toxic energy, promising to make the goon a new, silent man forever. A terrifying scream echoes through the penthouse windows, tearing through the peace of the sleeping metropolis. The next morning, a black car crosses the Guri Bridge at high speed, heading towards the hero's company. In the back seat, the Empire's commissioner examines photos and reports of the commotion, listening to his assistant chatter away. Adjusting her neckline, the woman informs him that the famous leader Ma Sang, sick, broke into Kim Tae-ju's house but got a severe beating and confessed everything. With a grim face, the official shakes his head upon learning that the boy dragged the criminals, alive, and dumped them right in the city police's lap. With no other choice, the militia accepted the serious complaint, which points to the head of YJ Pharmacy as the one who ordered the crime. Sighing in frustration, the commissioner grumbles, calling the platinum-haired mobster a complete idiot for failing so amateurishly. Staring at the landscape, the official knows this complaint will force the militia to intervene and create unnecessary chaos. With a noose around his neck, the commissioner decrees that things have gotten out of control and require extreme measures. In the square, the kneeling mob boss salivates and drools, begging the boy for more drugs. With a heavy movement, a fancy shoe stomps hard in a puddle, marking the arrival of the authorities. With an upright posture, the Empire's commissioner and Master Li of the militia enter the chaotic courtyard. Alongside their assistants, the Lord says they arrived too quickly, while our MC just watches the show patiently. Crawling on the asphalt, the mobster in withdrawal begs for help, dragging himself like a worm. Immediately, Master Li pushes past the goons and moves in front of the drooling villain. With disgust, he tells the human garbage to shut up, but the mobster can only whimper, calling for the Lord. Furious about the stain on his reputation, the police captain draws his giant sword, ordering everyone to back away. In the name of the Empire, he shouts, declaring a summary death penalty against the criminal in the public square. Tearing through the air, the warrior's blade descends with absurd speed, firing pure energy. A toxic shield appears, blocking the sword mid-swing with a clash of green sparks. The explosion kicks up dust everywhere, revealing our MC holding the giant blade without breaking a sweat. Hiding his hands in his pockets, the boy openly questions why the police want to slice up the case's main witness. Pulling a phone from his coat, the hero displays the video of the interrogation where the mobster himself rats out the platinum-haired guy from YJ Pharmacy. With a grin from ear to ear, the kid glares at the corrupt Lord, telling him to act right now that the video evidence is out there. Faced with the phone and the lethal block, the Empire's official finally feels the weight of the true owner of Gurai City. With a grim face, Master Li stumps the ground, asking if the boy thinks that cheap trick of blocking with his hands will impress anyone. Surrounded by a black aura, the Lord questions if deflecting the blade is a source of pride. Unfazed, the kid lets out a simple, mocking call, breaking the tension. In a quick flashback, the Lord recognizes the boy's face, remembering the incident with the horde of dead orcs in the forest. Faced with our MC's cold silence, the corrupt official swallows hard, feeling the pressure from the kid. Impatiently, the suited master states he's sure that insolent face has crossed his path before. Aware of the act, our hero finally confirms it aloud and admits he's the creator of the antidote. Overcome by rage, the Lord explodes his own energy, covering his entire body with purple lightning, and declares that his word is law here in Gurie. Full of swagger, he promises to make one last merciful offer, demanding the boy hand over the formula to spare the 4 mobsters' heads. Walking slowly towards the Lord, the kid refuses the proposal, saying he can't accept such a crappy deal. Laughing at the arrogance, the officer points his sword and tells the boy to try and stop him if he's able. With a mischievous smile, our MC mutters a taunt, adjusting his stance. In a green flash, the poisonous aura awakens, transforming the hero's hands into claws of pure energy. Without fear, the boy charges like a missile, cutting through the wind for the first attack. The clang of steel against poison sends sparks flying, breaking the asphalt of the square. With his blade locked, Master Li pushes with his body weight and angrily asks if it was that cheeky kid who broke the Sang, sick guild. Cold as ice, the boy releases his strength, and a trickle of blood runs down the Lord's arm, who finds the scratch amusing. Seething with pure hatred and with his eyes glowing purple, the officer decrees an immediate death penalty for attempting to harm a master. Unscathed, our MC adjusts his jacket and asks with a bored tone if all the city's masters are this disappointing. Not missing the chance to humiliate him, he provokes the guild chief, questioning what on earth he's so confident about to have this attitude. With a scream of fury, the Lord charges, repeating that he'll turn the boy into an illusion and sever his body. With absurd reflexes, our MC dodges and uses the poisonous repulsion magic, throwing the officer far away. Completely off balance, the Lord spins in the air but lands firmly, trying to mask the blow. In a somersault, he prepares to return the attack, but suddenly retreats upon hearing a deafening noise in the sky. From the smoke and heavy noise, a giant military helicopter descends into the middle of the square, illuminating the two with its searchlight. As soon as his feet touch the ground, a burly warrior drops from the aircraft, crushing the concrete. Standing up with the chief's posture, General Oh-jin, Hyung tells the Lord to stop the nonsense immediately. More soldiers drop from the aircraft, surrounding the area and showing that the heavy cavalry has arrived. Yelling, the bearded man tells the officer that the game has gone too far. Far from the commotion, the huge headquarters of the protagonist's corporation stands imposing under the afternoon light. With a confident smile, the general greets the corrupt officer, ironically mentioning it's been a long time since they've seen each other. Tense and on the back foot, Lord Lee crosses his arms and asks what the heck attracts federal military to a free city. Mocking the question, the big guy laughs and questions if a high-ranking military officer needs permission from trash to walk around his own country. Grinding his teeth, the suited master vows to report the improper intervention in Guri's jurisdiction to the command. Shrugging, the general shakes his head and says he's not there on official business as a soldier. In the blink of an eye, he completely ignores the officer, making it clear that his focus isn't on the guild's petty fight. Turning his back, the federal commander decrees that if the officer backs down, they'll each mind their own business, and the beef dies there. Quickly, the general runs to our boy and checks his body for injuries. Genuinely worried, the big guy asks if the kid got hurt during the absurd clash. Calm and unharmed, our MC thanks him for the help, saying he's good as new. With flushed cheeks, the general stammers, wanting to know who the unfortunate soul was that caused this monumental mess. On the commander's order, the military troop approaches and introduces themselves as loyal officers of the Monster Defense Division. Willing to overdo the flattery, the general vows to deploy lazy officers just to serve as the hero's personal escort. In a show of absurd respect, he even offers to prepare a special tonic tea for the boy to relax. Faced with this scandalous display, Lord Lee trembles, realizing the kid's connection to the military is much greater and more lethal than the reports indicated. Accepting defeat, the corrupt officer turns his back and announces, in a tone of false friendliness, that he's leaving. With narrowed eyes, our MC notices the cowardly escape and says their friendly chat was too good to end like this. Furious at the nerve, the Lord stops in his tracks, shocked by the boy's audacity. Facing the hero, he turns his head, incredulous at the provocation. Without beating around the bush, the kid says the conversation isn't over and he wants to hear the missing details. Stuttering slightly, the officer suggests that if the military man has so much free time, he should help clean up the rest of the trash from Gori's alleys. Pressed against the wall, the Lord says his men will take care of the arrested guild and tries to slip away. Focused on justice, the bearded general grabs the suited man's arm, telling him to wait. Immediately, the officer gets angry, throwing his weight against the general and demanding that the free jurisdiction be respected. Dry and objective, our MC demands an explanation, wanting to know why the officer was covering for the boss who tried to kidnap a good friend of the city. In a threatening tone, the boy accuses the Lord of feigning blindness, while an honest businessman was almost erased. Nervous, the corrupt master yells, reminding the general that military interference is a clear violation of Guri's imperial laws. Ignoring the law, the general's eyes light up with pure power, emitting frightening sparks of energy, and reminds him that hierarchy exists even in heck. Trembling from head to toe, the Lord's assistant takes a step back, feeling the air in the square disappear. With a predator's smile, the big guy states that the penalty for imperial treason and corruption is simply losing your head right there, and he would love to do the honors. Feeling the crushing pressure, the Lord tries to maintain his composure even while breaking a cold sweat. Publicly challenged, he retreats, afraid of the deadly confrontation. Around them, the police team swallows hard, awaiting their captain's impossible decision. Defeated and out of options, the master clenches his teeth, agreeing that it's not worth risking his own life for a corrupt pharmacy partner. With an authoritative shout, the Lord orders his team to get back to their vehicles and disappear from the square before they lose their heads. Through the heavy air, the vehicle speeds away, dragging the humiliated officer away from the scene. Free of the headache, our MC extends his hand, sincerely thanking the Lieutenant General for the miraculous intervention. Laughing in relief, the big guy dismisses the thanks, stating they are both in the same lifeboat. In the middle of the street, the old pharmacist partner finally breathes a sigh of relief, praising the speed of the military cavalry. Nodding, the general confirms that the situation almost turned into a massive disaster. Satisfied, our MC points out that if the military hadn't arrived, the fight could have destroyed the entire block. Pointing to the handcuffed mobsters on the ground, The boy celebrates that at least they managed to secure the evidence of the crime. Feeling the tension fade, the old owner puts a hand on the boy's shoulder, suggesting they press the case while they have the upper hand. Immediately, our boy denies the suggestion, stating that the fight has become a matter of his personal honor. Fully agreeing, the military man reminds them that the market turmoil not only affects the boy's business, but also the production of the army's precious potions, and declares zero tolerance for the enemy. With a cold gaze, our MC mutters the name of Lord Li Jiang, hack, promising that this crossing of paths will cost him dearly next time. Looking at his own hand, he analyzes the clean cut left by the officer's blade and confirms that his 4-star poison still doesn't affect a master. In a quick reflection, he recalls the absurd fight and admits that if the military general hadn't descended from the sky, victory would have been nearly impossible. Totally focused, the boy clenches his fists and declares to himself that he needs to become infinitely stronger for the future. Amid the chaos of the square, the helicopter takes off, and the hero vows that he will never again swallow humiliation from anyone in silence. Far away, the police vehicle speeds along, taking Master Li and his assistant back to the militia base. Gritting his teeth, the officer clutches his own arm and grumbles the name of General Oh Jin Hyang, full of hatred for the humiliation. Suddenly a green, pulsating vein appears on the Lord's arm, spreading a bizarre toxin. With a muffled scream, the officer contorts in pain, feeling the wound burn like acid. Frightened, he stares at his trembling hand and realizes in shock that the mark left by the kid wasn't just a defensive scratch. Pale, the assistant swallows hard and stammers, asking what the heck is happening to her boss's body. Desperate, the Lord throws his pride to the wind and screams at the driver to speed like crazy straight to the hospital. Tearing up the asphalt, the vehicle cuts across Guri's main bridge, squealing its tires on the curve. With his veins about to burst, the police captain nearly blacks out in the back seat, cursing the boy to his last generation. Cutting through the clouds, the massive military helicopter flies back to the defense base under the sunlight. Inside the helicopter, the mob boss Sang Sik trembles with fear, surrounded by soldiers armed to the teeth. Terrified, the coward tries to rat everyone out, saying he'll spill the beans on Lord Li and YJ Pharmacy without hiding anything. With his arms crossed, the bearded general gives a bored smile and tells the thug to shut up, as they already have the boy's video and don't need any more chatter. Without losing his posture, the commander turns his head and calls for his military assistant, named Jun Tae. Immediately, the subordinate agrees with his chief's order, ready to clean up the mess. With a violent thud, the soldier's boot kicks the drooling mobster in the stomach without mercy. Startled by the kick, the thug cries, begging for mercy as he's dragged by the neck. Completely cold, the soldier opens the helicopter door mid-flight, and the wind rushes into the cabin. In the blink of an eye, the useless mobster is kicked out, plummeting to his doom with a desperate scream. Closing the iron hatch, the soldier salutes and informs the general that the cleanup was successfully completed. Satisfied, the commander agrees and tells them to take care of the YJ Pharmacy CEO with the same diligence. Taking the opportunity, he orders the two officers to go down to Guri and assist with security at the new Taehung Bio Company. With a calculating smile, the big guy admits he'll use this protection excuse to tie himself for good to our boy and his billions. In Guri, Baek Chang Hoon's cell phone rings, and he answers, saying he just arrived at the bus station. Walking through the turnstiles, the elegant adopted daughter of the old pharmacy owner waves back, confirming she'll grab a taxi. On the phone, the woman is completely shocked to hear from the security guard that our MC annihilated a horde of magic weasels by himself. With her hand over her mouth, the young administrator walks down the sidewalk, incredulous at the report of the massacre. On the other end of the line, she says she's going straight home while the young man swears their boss is hiding master-level strength. Through the taxi window, she confirms her destination to the family orphanage, settling into her seat. Watching the landscape fly by, the woman reflects and understands why her old father suddenly asked for administrative help. Crossing the winding road, the taxi ride climbs the mountains towards her home in Guri. At the top of the hill, the colorful sign of Old Man Baek's orphanage shines, clean and well kept. Passing through the open gate, the woman finds the yard full of happy children around a huge bonfire. With a gigantic smile, the old pharmacist turns his head and celebrates the arrival of his brilliant daughter. Full of joy, the young woman returns the smile, announcing that she quit her corporate job for good to help the family. In a proud hug, the old man puts his hand on the girl's shoulder, thanking her for her courage. Surprised by the party in the yard, the young woman adjusts her bangs and asks what on earth all that noise and smell of meat is. Pointing to the children, the old man reveals that our boy returned from an absurd hunt and brought back an entire poisonous deer. Instantly, she remembers the security guard's bizarre talk, and it finally clicks that the rumors of his monstrous strength were absolutely true. With a spatula in hand, the hero stirs the cauldron of meat over the fire while the children drool around him. Getting the new CEO's attention, the kid waves and gives a welcoming smile as the old man makes the introductions. Elegant in a leather suit, our MC formally introduces himself as the old man's business partner. Without losing her composure, the woman confirms she remembers their tense discussion from before and extends her hand in a firm handshake. With a relieved laugh, the girl thanks him for his trust and jokes that he was extremely rude that time. Accepting the challenge, she promises to sort out the paperwork and build Taehongbayo the right way, turning the project into a global powerhouse. The sound of heavy marching cuts off the conversation, and dozens of footsteps echo on the orphanage's dirt road. With a grim face, our MC turns his body, sensing the approach and preparing for the worst. In full uniform, the commander of the defense squad parks dozens of soldiers at the property's gate. Startled by the military invasion, the hero raises an eyebrow, not understanding the armed crowd. Awkwardly, the police major salutes and explains they were ordered to stay there and handle security. But the place doesn't have rooms for everyone. Laughing at the improvisation, the officer shakes the kid's hand, promising to turn the new company into an indestructible fortress. With a hand on his chest, the major declares he will give his life to protect the army's main supplier of antidotes. Immediately, the officer turns his back to the troop and orders them to unload their camp right there in the yard. With clenched fists and a determined look, our boy takes a deep breath and realizes he finally has a platoon on his side. Far from the yard, the lights of the sumptuous Gurei Committee Castle shine in the free metropolis's night. Inside a luxurious hearing room, a giant table judges the platinum-haired man's case behind closed doors. With the gavel banging, the sentence declares guilt for price, fixing threats, and illegal lobbying, sealing the villain's downfall. Defeated and pale, the platinum-haired CEO swallows hard, realizing the political sharks used him as a scapegoat. Through the golden corridors, the ex-businessman walks aimlessly, cursing the scoundrels who pocketed his money and discarded him like trash. Furious, he kicks the wall, remembering that the mobster Sang, sick, mysteriously vanished, and to make matters worse, the meddling kid is still alive and kicking, and making a fortune. With his hands on his head, the platinum-haired man runs out the back door to his car, knowing he has nowhere left to run. Tearing down the road at dawn, the black car flees Gurei under the moonlight, pushing the engine to its limit. Through the windshield, the tension is palpable as a motorcycle's dual headlights cut into the rearview mirror at a bizarre speed. Desperate, the businessman peeks through the side mirror, noticing the macabre pursuit. A biker dressed all in black with a sealed helmet pulls up alongside the driver's window. With a scream of terror, the platinum-haired man's eyes widen as a thick steel rod shatters the car window. In a violent crack, the club smashes the steering wheel, veering the car off the road with a deadly spark. The horn blares non-stop amid the panic, and the driver's blood splatters, staining the front windshield. Completely blind and out of control, the car breaks through the bridge's guardrail. Over the cliff, the luxury limousine plummets into the darkness in a silent, witness-free end. From the edge of the cliff, the mysterious biker watches the car sink into the dark water and coldly reports over the radio that the mission was successfully completed, disappearing into the night.